Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. Today we have another episode of the Captain's Table. This is a podcast where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen. Today we've got two people you've seen before on the Captain's Table. We're going to have a very specific topics. I've been trying to do these more frequently, kind of theme everything around a specific topic. And this topic is, does Star Citizen respect your time? It's a question and a discussion I've seen happen more and more frequently, especially since 318. But just in general, I've heard that term a while. But before we get into that, let's introduce our guests, starting with you. Attira, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? And where can they find you?
Hello, everyone. I am Attirakell. I'm a small YouTuber that does a lot of some increasing now with 318 YouTube or Star Citizen videos, gameplay videos, and things like that. And I have also done a series called A Soldier's Opinion, where I deep dive into specific aspects of military life, military professions, and talk about focused the way things are in real life and the way they hopefully can kind of be gamified into Star Citizen so that we have some version of reality. You can find me at youtube.com/Attirakell, all one word. And I also participate with Tree in our podcast, which is Armchair Admirals and Generals, where we talk about, well, when we're focused, we're very focused on military topics, and we cover a variety of those. And so we're all right. So, yeah, that's me. Thank you.
That's cool. Awesome. And it's youtube.com/Attira_Kell, right?
No, all one word. Attirakell.
All one word. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Attirakell, one word. All right. And then Tree, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hey, everyone. I'm Tree0311, Tree0311 for all you non-infantry types. Yeah, I'm a small-time content creator. I do... I stream my two podcasts on Twitch, and then I upload them to my YouTube. The first podcast was the Pathfinders podcast that Nazarus and I started. It was Nazarus's brainchild, and now I produce it. But we work together to put that one together, and we follow the development of Star Citizen. We read in detail the monthly reports, the roadmap updates, and the shiny tracker reports. So check that out. And we do deep dives into aspects of the game and its development. What does the whole history of the development of this feature look like in order to put things into context so that we can. I like to do it just mostly to set expectations appropriately for what this is going to look like when it releases. As far as timelines and how it'll play out, because there's a lot of things where we like to call them nebulous because things are a little bit murky. And then Attirakell and Nightcob and I started the Armchair Admirals and Generals podcast, just because I had been on Captain's Table before with Attirakell, and then you had Nightcob on here, and I was like, hey, this guy sounds like a lot of fun. And so we have three very different backgrounds in the military, but we try to combine those and relate that experience to aspects of the Star Citizen universe and the gameplay, and how you might be able to approach those things and how they might relate. And so we're hoping to do episode 5 for Armchair Admirals and Generals in the next couple of weeks. I'm down here in San Antonio on orders, and so we're trying to figure out when we can make that happen and if my hotel room internet connection will support it.
Sweet. That reminds me as well. I actually have to get you in contact with Yosalis, who's another Star Citizen streamer who I think he was a Marine as well.
Cool.
So he hasn't. Well, I rated him at one point. I've known him for a bit, and I was like, "Wait, you're a Marine?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You got to get you into the Armchair Generals and Admirals." It's like I've never heard that. It's like
that's something that we've been wanting to do is add a guest, someone to round it out and get more perspectives in, add some more variety.
Definitely looking for somebody from our corporate Air Force who has some broad experience, because they are different and how they operate is different, and we really haven't addressed that. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's
you also
a
have
perspective that we don't really have.
DJ Knight was in the Air Force. He'd be a good one to talk as well because he's got that. So I know a couple people
it'd be fun.
that could do this. So, but with that being said, let's get into the discussion today. I figured both these two military men could help us with understand a little bit of the concept of hurry up and wait, which is a concept a lot of people don't know about. But you've probably heard it. It's made its way into the civilian world. That's how I heard it, is because a bunch of veterans. I worked with a bunch of veterans, and whenever admin would tell us to do something, they would mention something about like hurry up and wait, and be like, "What the heck are you talking about?" And they explained it to me as effectively you are told to get everything ready, and then you don't do anything for a long time until you're actually told to do something. So everything's got to be ready to go, even though you're doing nothing. So I don't know if that's appropriate with you, if that fits the definition that you all have, but
100%.
okay. So with that in mind, Star Citizen has this hurry up and wait syndrome often when we're dealing with, especially when we're dealing with like preparing to play the game. Because a lot of people who've been playing the game for even a little bit will understand how much preparation there is in just going to do a mission, going to buy armor, going to buy weapons, going to get food or medical supplies, and getting all these things prepared in order to go do a mission. And often, usually now because of bugs, you do a mission and then for no fault of your own, you're dead or you crash or you have to get back, and you just kind of lost all of that time. So the question I have, and I'll start with you on this one, Tree, and then go to you, Attira. Does Star Citizen respect your time in terms of bugs? And if not, do you think CIG should be designing around the bugs for the time being?
Yeah, the way that Star Citizen plays and has played for a very long time is, and it's really a coin toss, whether you're going to have a smooth play session where things work and you're not going to die to bugs, because sometimes I'll play for hours on end and won't have a single bug or disconnect, and it'll be a great experience. And other times you can't get a thing done, and you'll spend hours, and all of a sudden you're in the hole a couple 100,000 credits because you've lost everything multiple times. And that's the frustration of it is, if you're like me and you've done a lot of the research into the development of all these, features that are at various stages into their development, that their intentions are good as far as being able to respect your time, and being able to, put a little bit of effort into planning and being able to live your life in the verse without having to just constantly restart. But that, we are slowly making our way there, but the pace at which we're covering that ground has been tremendously slow and very frustrating. And that's, I think, one of the major pitfalls of the development is I don't think anyone anticipated that the stability aspect for those things that make it so that way you can live your life in the verse. I don't think anyone expected it to take that long, and for things to not, I hate to use the word mesh, but mesh together in a way that accounts for that. But it's, if you look at all the design docs for everything, and you think of it from a holistic point of view, everything is there where they don't want you to have to, constantly be dying and respawning, and claiming ships, and all these things are, the overall design of the game is not to be that way, but it plays that way because the game is so buggy. And that's one of those things where, I don't know if I can say one way or the other, whether they should have, would it have delayed the development of the game overall had they started off with more, I guess you'd say, manageable expectations about what they could simulate in the universe based off of the back end to support that kind of life. I don't know if that's, I'm not overly technical, so I don't know if that's even possible. I appreciate what they're doing, but it's really, it is definitely frustrating, and I appreciate that is their intent, but they did not communicate that well. Okay. And I don't think that message has gotten across to the majority of backers.
So the question I'll add on to that then is, Do you think CIG in the future should start to account for this, even if it means slower rollouts of new features to prevent something like a 318 launch again, where, people can't even spawn their ships, let alone, people taking their time off from work and to play a game that isn't even functional for them? Do you think CIG should take this as a message to slow down and focus more on making the game playable now rather than new features coming in, which would slow down the development, or should they just keep going at the pace they're going and then worry about that when they get towards a more complete game?
That's the issue, is people don't realize that the overwhelming majority of the bugs you experience are due to the back end. And due to the back-end systems and the state that they're in and how far developed they are. And you can't test those things until appropriately, until you test them at scale. And so it's really not it's not possible for them to, do things smaller as far as testing like 318 in the back end and PES. And, we're going to, only... they need this to be able to work at scale, because that's the only way they're going to find these issues in order to get it to work where they need it to for the amount of people that they needed to support. Because there is no goal of, we're only expecting to sell a couple 100,000 copies and support for that many people. Kind of like Eve. Max had like 500,000 subscribers. We're already way past that. It's not a thing. I think there's probably ways that they could have gone about introducing things into the game in a priority sense in order to make it a bit smoother. I feel like the agile development is a good idea, but it's the way that they have oriented their priorities and continued progress on other things, mostly partly because they're working on Squadron 42, has made it so that way they've introduced a lot of things to the game that probably shouldn't have without the back end to support it, the back end infrastructure. And the back end takes time, but I feel like they could have organized things and structured things in a better way. But then do you have knock-on effects for Squadron 42? It's hard to know, behind that curtain.
Okay. Tira, same question for you. Do you think the way that current Star Citizen currently is respect your time with bugs and such? And should CIG be designing around the idea? Should they be taking this into account when releasing future updates?
Well, Tree said so much. And I agree. I agree. So I am not the guy who sits and studies design documents. So I was reading some of the comments as we were going through, and there was one guy, and I can't see the stream window now, but he said they had to push 318 in the way it was. So, and that was in respect to Tree's comment that there are some things you just can't test until you go live, right? Mm-hmm. So asking your player base to download another 30 plus gigs of data to get on the PTU.
80 gigs.
Was it 80 this time? Okay, so that tells you how long. That tells you how long I've gotten on the PTU.
Yeah.
Right. It was a long time ago. Because now part of that is because my old computer couldn't take I didn't have enough space. Now I do.
Yeah.
But okay, 80 gigs to get on the PTU. Holy crap.
Yeah.
So holy crap. That's a lot of damn. So a lot of people don't get on the PTU to do that stress testing and all that crap because they don't want to be testers. They want to be game players. And so, yeah, I think it was inevitable that when 318 went live with all the amazing changes they're trying to put into it, it was going to have problems from the start. I'll approach this from a different way slightly.
Yeah.
So do they respect our time? Well, I think they respect their own time a little bit more than they respect our time. And here's what I'll say. Like, okay, you got to launch. You're going to go live 318. Now, I'm not at CIG. I don't know if this was a thing or not, right? But they launched, what was it? It was on for a weekend or a Friday or something, right?
It was a Friday,
and so there was, So then they went home and the back end crashed. How many people did they have on standby to come in and immediately begin fixing the problem? Because I'll tell you, Monday saw an immediate improvement.
Mhm.
Tuesday it got better, and it's gotten a little bit better every day. So my question is like, okay, so you got to pay some guys a little bit of overtime to be ready on a Saturday to jump on and work 8 hours, and then work 8 hours on Sunday, and then work until it's stable enough for us to play. And then you give them back their weekend and their time, along with a little bit of overtime pay.
I can confirm that they had people working over the weekend, and they plan to work over the weekend. Yeah.
Okay.
And part of the things getting better Monday, Tuesday was concurrency
because of that. All right. Well, then I retract. Then it felt like it was just nothing was happening at all.
I think the interesting thing by comparison is at the same time, Diablo 4 went into its closed and then closed beta, and then this weekend open beta. And if you hold one up next to the other, Diablo 4, made by Blizzard Activision,
they're the same game.
Unending.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a fair comparison.
That's true.
That's not a fair comparison.
I don't think it's a fair comparison with Star Citizen, honestly, because Star Citizen has much fewer people and less experience than Blizzard, who has literally wrote the book on how to do online.
Powerhouse, yeah.
It's an unending amount of resources in terms of people and funding. And the closed beta for Diablo 4 was an absolute disaster on epic proportions. Worse than 318's going to live. And it's like, well, that's your beta, and you're planning on launching in June.
Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't tracking that at all because I just have no interest in Diablo.
It's been a week.
Yeah, same.
And it's, I let my nostalgia get the better of me because I hate Blizzard for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself because I wanted to try it out, and I'm wanting to press the refund button because I'm like, this is a disaster of epic proportions that they couldn't in a week make the kind of improvements that CIG has made, for a lot of people. Just I've noticed. I got in to 318 the Monday after the first weekend, first try, no problems whatsoever.
Very lucky.
And
I'll tell you,
I've tried to play Diablo 4. I've been in a queue that lasted over 2 hours.
When I got disconnected. When I got onto Star Citizen the day it launched, that Friday, I was with Nightcob, and we had a very successful playthrough and were present when the back end crashed because we watched it happen on the servers. And we were just like, wow, nothing's working. Why is this not? Ooh, what's going on here? And it was great until the stress test came. And everybody was piling in, and it just wasn't ready for that level of stress that the live environment put on it. So I can say, I thought it was really close, right? Because the game itself, when it was working great. Mm-hmm. I'll say, do I think they should design the game around the bugs? This kind of goes back to my desire that they release phase zeros that are actual phase zeros. Right, so you design a ship, you have a function, you have this thing that you want to release. I feel like oftentimes they don't necessarily release it in its most simple form, and so you end up with something very complex, and then it doesn't work right, and then whatever. So they say, well, we don't want to release any ships until we've developed the back end or the system for that ship. But then they create a very complex system that takes them ages to launch that ship, and then it's buggy, and it's like, okay, or you could just create a really baseline version of that, develop a short profit circle around it, and let us run with it, and then do what you did with mining, which was an iterative process where they brought it up to snuff, and now mining is a pretty kick-ass thing, and I'm really looking forward to, holy cow, they're already rolling out component and weapon salvage for 319, right? Which is going to be awesome. So, well, hopefully, we hope they do. Knock on wood.
Hope.
So, I would rather they start it to address them instead to minimize bugs when you roll something out. Start really, really basic, and then start layering in levels of complexity that doesn't break necessarily, or it's easier to test, easier to develop. I don't know how hard that is. I don't know how easy that is, but I feel like sometimes they go
too complex.
Really, too complex when they launch, and then we end up with crap ton of bugs. And then, but I don't want them to just design around the bugs. I want them to design the game they want to design.
Yeah.
And so there's a level of tolerance for that for us as players. We got to just kind of accept that we actually have to live with some of this while they get it right, because they're designing the game they want to design. But
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe echelon that thing up.
I feel like the placeholder systems for things for like persistence and PES, whether it's your character, your ship, and this is just a feeling, but like with other games that do, have aspects of persistence in them, that work pretty dang well. I feel like the work in progress version until they got PES built, that they could have made and started it put in place years ago, could have been simplified and more reliable. But I feel like they used a system that mirrored more of what they were going for, and it was overly complex and not as reliable instead. And I don't know if that would have hindered the development of PES and that technology, but I think it would. You could have had a much better experience along the way if the system was less complex, if it mirrored more of what other games have done in order for your inventory to work.
Yeah.
and be able to move things around and have your character work just like it does in other MMOs. And I feel like they aimed for the moon far too soon, and when they could have, there's probably other systems that they could have copy pasta to an extent in order to implement and then work on PES, just so you have a better experience in the meantime. But that may have slowed down development, and it's a cost benefit thing.
Yeah. All right.
Now I would say, hold on, I want to say, crash protection for cargo running and things, that was absolutely a step in the right direction to respect our time, right? Because you don't lose everything when you crash. And so, crash recovery and that limited bit of persistence was fantastic on their part. And maybe they should look at other ways to expand that that protection, right? So it's not just the cargo on your ship and that goes to the nearest station or whatever. Because there are certainly other times where you'll experience a crash or experience a some type of bug that basically ends your session, or certainly costs you everything you're doing, even if the session doesn't crash. And there's really no way to get after that and solve that problem. So, but they have made some strides because they understood the stress it was placing on the player base. And so that I will acknowledge that. I would say they really need to make sure they keep that there and keep it functional, and maybe look at how they expand it a bit.
Okay. So, all right, let's move on to the next topic, because that's a little harsher one because we're dealing with it right now. But let's think about Star Citizen Complete, finished game. It's done. They're good to go. They have everything they want in there. Do you think that the current plan for Star Citizen in a 1.0 state, which, whether that be in 5 years or the heat death of the universe, whenever it actually happens, when all the features are in, do you think that idea is going to respect players' time? Do you think that idea is going to be fun enough to engage players and not punish players for doing that 3-hour session and then in the last minute of that session just crash and lose everything? Or like a mess up, maybe, not on the game's fault, but on the player's fault. Do you think that is CIG can mitigate that problem, or that is a fair system? What do you think, Tara? I'll start with you on this one.
So I want to clarify. You want to say at launch,
yes,
if the player screws up and it costs them everything they've been building,
is that fair?
Is that fair?
Or is it respecting your time? Because, like right now, we have a lot of issues with bugs and stuff like that, which often cause you to lose a lot of your stuff. But with the current systems that are set up, do you think that we will have that situation again where, someone decides to do a mission and they prepared an hour and a half to go to Pyro because they had to get the right components, they had to fuel up, they had to fly all the way there, the distances are going to be longer in the final game just because you're going to go longer distances, and then they show up and immediately get swatted by like a say an NPC just in the wrong place, wrong time. Do you think that sort of gameplay will still happen? Do you think there'll be? Do you think that CIG will?
I
have
absolutely think
developed-
that gameplay
Yeah.
will still happen.
Okay.
And it may not be an NPC. It may be players that have purchased $10,000 worth of ships and have a javelin on standby, sitting at the pyro gate, waiting to torpedo you with a size 10 torpedo. Not to be a jerk, but that's kind of the game we all signed up to play.
Okay.
It's a little bit rougher than some other games in that the environment is a little lethal. Now, do I think that 1.0 is probably going to be a little bit buggy and we're probably going to have some crashes and some problems? Yeah, probably. And is that going to respect our time? No,
No.
not really.
Yeah.
No, not at all. But not on day one. No, absolutely. I think it'll be like every other launch. It'll have problems. But as far as gameplay goes, I mean, if you the player, I mean, they've always said if you make a decision and that decision turns out to work against you, that's on you, right? Now, I hope that by the time the game launches, they have balanced NPC and reactions, right? So that you don't pop out through a jump point and there's 10,000 NPCs that are, waiting for you and just destroy you in place, right? Because that would be silly and a total waste of your time. So there is some balance there that I hope they get right. And if they don't, then that's a total waste of our time. If, like, for instance, perfect example, right? Right now, if you go to some of these open settlement, what's the right word?
The derelict settlements.
The ones that are falling apart.
Yeah, the derelict.
Derelict. Yeah. And there's guys on the ground there. If you don't kill those dudes from the ground and you approach on foot, they will shoot you in the head.
Yeah.
The second you come over the rise. They have an unparalleled accuracy and perception. It's nat 20 perception and a hit every single time, right? That's stupid, right? So, they design, and maybe this goes back to the previous thing. They designed those things, right, around the idea of slow server speeds and, janky systems. Now everything's running just a little bit faster, and now these freaking S tier NPCs that are marked as novices are like pistol snipers at 1,000 yards, right?
Yeah.
The bullet shouldn't even travel that far, but somehow they're headshotting you with it. So that's not a respect of our time. And if they do that at 1.0 when the game launches, that is a waste of our time. So they need to figure out, how you balance your NPCs a little bit more, because they're, because like right now, that's a total. You're dead, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough fight. Hope you brought a Carrack that has a respawn bed in it, right? So that's where I go. If that's what 1.0 is when we launch, is just us getting freaking sniped from orbit by some NPC because he can see us from across the system, now that's a total damn waste of our time. If they can balance that gameplay so that it is effective and it makes sense for us and we have a shot, then I would say they won. Right. So
okay.
That's where I'll go with that. Yeah. Tree.
So it's 1.0.
Yeah.
Everything's in. And I think 1.0 to me means release, and we're at dynamic server meshing 2. PS has been out for multiple years. We've got a lot of stability. All the systems are in. And so my thoughts on that setting are that you are largely bug-free and things are working appropriately, like a released game is intended to do.
Yeah.
It should, barring things that happen regardless of whatever game you play. Now, if that's the setting, and based off the way that they have are designing things and the way that their intent is, I think that Star Citizen respects your time, or the design of Star Citizen respects your time as much as you do. And I I say that because if you put all this time and effort planning on going into Pyro, but then you make dumb decisions that cut your gameplay short, that's on you. You took a significant risk, and you didn't plan for this. You didn't plan for that.
But that's the game we signed up for.
Yeah,
that's the game you signed up for, and it's just like with survival MMOs, and because there's an aspect of that in Star Citizen. But at the same time, the way Star Citizen is being designed is there's also going to be plenty of areas where the risk is dramatically lower, and you can still get in and have a lot of fun and have a pretty emergent gameplay in a short period of time, across short spaces, where it's not that I put in all this effort to go across the system and deep into Pyro, blah blah blah, only for this to happen. Well, if you're in a much smaller system and you're not going out into the deep black, where there's no help, well then if that's not the case, then you don't have that much consequence. It's not that strong. But the fact that the way that they're designing it, where you can get shot a whole bunch of times and then you're just wounded, and if you have friends with you, they can heal they can heal you and get you back up. If your ship is damaged, it's chance of it actually just going kaboom, by design, is supposed to be very low. And you can, if you've got friends, they can get you repaired, they can get you back up. You don't start off at square zero. Whereas with so many other games, you get shot once or twice, you die, and you're all the way back here at your respawn point, and then you have to run all the way back. And that's, a frustrating thing for a lot of people. And, so I think the design of it, giving you the option to choose what kind of gameplay you want, and how much risk you want to incur and how much planning you want to put into it, I think that's a good design, in that there is, not something for everyone, but something for most. If you're into the Battlefield style gameplay, then that's going to be available for you. If you're into the MMO survival Rust type game, well, to an extent, not exactly, but somewhat.
I think Star Citizen will be the exact opposite of arcade gameplay.
Yeah. Well, it was.
I don't think it'll be sim though. I don't think it's gonna be a perfect sim.
I don't think it'll be sim, but if you go in there hard charging,
they have
like you would in Battlefield, you're gonna
have problems. But the very first design document for medical gameplay, with a whole bunch of things directly from Chris Roberts. I was reading through it yesterday because I've been working on stuff for another video. It talks specifically about how they don't want that. They want you to take a few hits and pull back and get into cover, and get some healing. Or if you are down because a limb takes an injury, they can repair that to an extent. You have a sort of debuff, and that whole thing is extended out into ships. So it's giving you making that sandbox and that much player agency, I think, respects your time as much as you do. The question is how many people actually respect their own time.
Their own time, yeah.
You have to be an adult about it, and know your own limitations. So I'm not going to go into dogfighting and have expectations of doing well, because that's not my thing.
Dogfighter. So what you're saying is skill issue. It sounds like a skill issue. You get good kind of thing.
Get good at the game, but also get good at planning and get good at making friends. And if you're not good at those things, don't engage in those things where the consequences outweigh the level of goodness that you are.
Well, and we've talked about this a couple times in Armchair Admirals and Generals. Check us out.
Check it out.
The planning
specifically logistics. Very first episode.
Yeah.
Planning is the primary game loop.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, whether it seems like it makes sense or not, planning is the primary game loop. So when you go in to this game, expect to have to plan. And there is a little bit of know yourself and know your skill, right? Attirakell knows he is not the best fighter pilot. He's not the best probably anything in the game. He's in there to have fun, make a little scratch, maybe buy a ship, have a good time, right?
Mm-hmm.
not going against Avenger 1 in dogfighting. It's just not going to be some, I don't aspire to that, right? So if you, right, so it comes back to plan, know how good you are, and like, are you prepared? Are you personally prepared to go into Pyro at game launch day 1? Or do you need to maybe stick and stand a little bit longer and train up a bit? Run some missions, maybe buy some freaking kit, and get better, and then go try and do it. Or if you don't care, just go and have a good time, and maybe it'll work out for you, right? But
the limiting of one shot for personnel and ship is a huge deal when it comes to respecting your time.
The limiting of what?
One shot. If your ship doesn't just die. You're supposed to have soft death for your ship, far more technical, but you're also supposed to have soft death for your player, and that's a huge step towards respecting your time.
Yeah, you shouldn't be just getting shot in the arm and suddenly you're bleeding out on the ground sort of situation. It needs to have, some. Well, to be fair, that's also a player skill issue, though. I'd say or player planning issue, because if you're getting shot in the arm and bleeding out, it's because you don't have any armor.
Or med pen.
Armor.
Or you didn't bring a med pen. Yeah. But again, right? Like, so right now, I mean, if it's PvP, it could be that, but no player should be. Wow, there are probably a few out there that can do it, but no player is like 3-bullet headshotting you with a P4 from a kilometer away, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the NPCs can do that. So there is a definitive lack of respect for your time with how NPCs are performing right now.
Mm-hmm.
You try to go do something and they're like, haha, and you're done. So, but
I do have to say it's a nice change of pace, because I'm used to walking into a bunker with NPCs butt naked with just my fists and killing all of them within 15 minutes.
Jiro loves doing that.
Let me solo her for Star Citizen.
Yeah. Yes. So I will tell you, when Nightcop and I did one of the new Orison missions, and it was a challenge. Like, I went down, like I was poking now it was a little bullshit. Let's be clear, it was a little crap, right? I lean out and like maybe this much in my gun is showing out, and I get headshot and I go down. He heals me, brings me back up, and then we went through the whole thing, but we were very careful and we were cognizant of the threat that the NPCs posed, and it was pretty engaging gameplay.
Yeah.
Now, do I think 100% accuracy rate is correct?
For a bunch of drugged out pirates on the edge of space. Yeah, I don't think they're shooting. They're shooting like trained snipers at
yeah.
But it's the kill shot, Attira. You didn't respect the kill shot.
That's right. They had it up sideways. But I will tell you, it was very engaging gameplay, because we were puckered. Right, because I mean, we were calling out freaking angles and planning as we went. It was very tactical, because we knew if we screwed up once, right, we were done. So, I enjoyed
the emergence of Starkov, really.
Yeah.
Because I remember first playing when Tarkov first came out.
Tarkov, I love it.
You're trying to loot things and trying to get better gear, and then all of a sudden, you go around a corner, and that one time you don't peek the corner, and there's a scav, and he just blows you away, especially if you're running by yourself, and it's we are there. And now, granted, this isn't the 1.0 NPC system. Paul, you've been talking about this a lot on Office Hours with the development of the new AI system, and how we don't have the AI it's supposed to be, and it's not, they're still dialing that in, and so. But that's part of that player agency. I'm not gonna, when you go to take a mission and you see the threat of this mission is really high because these NPCs are really good, I'm probably not gonna go and take that mission on by myself. And
like the pyro dudes who they think are the like the rogue soft guys running around.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to either recruit
not drug addled at all.
Recruit some friends who are either really good, or recruit even more friends who are not good, who can sponge for me.
Yeah. Die in waves, please.
So at launch,
Jack Brannigan.
I think there'll be a lot of dependencies on whether or not they respect our time. If they haven't dialed this in by then I would say no, they're not respecting our time.
Okay.
Yep.
We complain now about 100% accuracy, but we also recognize that this was the AI as it stands now was developed to operate in a far worse environment than what we currently have. So they now have to take time to adjust the AI to give them hit percent or miss percentages, which could be hit percentages that match their skill level, so that it some missions are easy and some missions will be harder, and some NPCs in a mission will be very good and some NPCs in a mission will be very bad. And they
Same
just
for
maybe they
ships
haven't.
and ship turrets.
And same thing for ships and ship turrets. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually have not gotten in and done any ship combat yet. I've done some
Remember when
stuff and some salvage. So
when they first were talking about the development of Xenothreat, and I think it was Jean Crew mentioned, the builds that they're playing internally with the way that the AI on the Xenothreat Idris was, the mission was absolutely impossible. You couldn't get close because they were just, they were too coordinated with their lasers, and they're insta popping anything coming close. And so they had to dial it back. Well, then came out to live, and server tick rate and piece of cake. But we're going to run into that same issue if you're flying around in your Gladiator trying to bomb a Kraken, and take out that size 8 turret. Well, the size 8 turret magically one shots you out of nowhere, from 5 clicks out. Well, that's same level of this isn't fun, because your Gladiator isn't going to survive that shot. It's just like if you get one shotted as a character. So they have to be able to balance that out. And
let's hope that they balance that before they release the next iteration.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Let's talk about the next. Let's move on to the next topic, because there's one last topic I want to talk about before we get into the question and answers. And I'll start with you on this one, Tree, which is how much of the game, in your opinion, should be planning versus gameplay versus actively doing the game? If in your perfect ideal world, how much of the game
I'm going to
would be
judge you based on your answer.
Actually working, like buying stuff and equipping your ship and that kind of stuff, versus going off and doing missions and doing the working with your friends and exploring the universe. How much of that?
I think that's relative. If you use the star map and you can use the tools on the star map, and none of this is accurate. It's from a lot of it's from ages ago, but you can click on the star map and you can see little colors added to it by threat and economy and population. You could say the same thing on the star map for if you're going to be operating in this star system, you're going to have to do green level of planning, for your day-to-day play, versus in this star system it's yellow or orange or red, based off of the infrastructure that's there and the amount of support you can gather. And so I think that if you are playing in a starter system, say you're just wanting to do low level cargo hauling between Terra and Hadrian, I think you should be able to hop in and go within get going within a matter of minutes. You hop in, you wake up in your ship, in your hangar that you're renting in Terra, and you take a mission, and your whole A is loaded up in a matter of minutes, or you load it up in a matter of minutes, and on you go, on your way to Hadrian after you've gotten fueled. And if you're good about being efficient, you're out the gates of the hangar in a matter of minutes. But if your gameplay is I'm in Null, and I want to go, from null 2 to null 4 or whatever, many AU across the system in order to undertake this complex mission in an abandoned underground facility to rescue somebody because there's slavers operating in null. Well, then, your planning, should probably be in the excess. You might be planning for multiple days before that to acquire all the things that you need and get people positioned and ships positioned, in order to have that, go off, but that's complete opposite sides of the spectrum. Oh gosh, brain farting on the name. What's the Nexus?
Nexus.
If you
yeah.
just want to hop in and get into a gunfight in the Nexus system, you should be able to spawn in one of those UEE controlled towns or cities on, is it Nexus 3?
I think so.
And, and hop in your Ursa rover and, drive a few minutes and, hit a pirate base. I think that's totally acceptable, but it's, knowing where those things are and going to where the gameplay is that you're interested in. And people will gravitate to different areas based off of that. But if you're, you have to know how the game works and set your own expectations. And, if you're trying to, do the thing that doesn't fit with what you want to do, well, you're going to be disappointed, but that's on you.
Okay. Tira, same question. How much of the percentage of the game do you think is planning versus gameplay and your ideal?
So I agree with most of what Tree said, but I am going to put a hard number on it.
Okay.
So the percentage I'm going to use is mainly for your planning versus the planning time you afford to your subordinate organization. So in the Army, we have a rule, and I think it would apply for this for Star Citizen as well. Is kind of a good idea. So we call it the 1/3, 2/3 rule. So if you have a mission that you're going to go run, now it may take 5 minutes to run the mission. Let's be real, but if you have, let's say, 3 days to plan that mission, 1/3 of that time should be your headquarters, and you give 2/3 of that time, 2 days, to your subordinates to plan their mission. Right. So that's the 1/3, 2/3 rule. It affords them maximum amount of time to get their plans in order while you still have a little bit of time to get the plan right. Now, for gameplay, I think that's probably okay. You might be able to say 1/4, 3/4, but how long is a bunker mission?
About to get a lot longer.
Yeah. I mean, you're picking a lot more.
Maybe 15 minutes though, right?
Yeah.
Right now, maybe
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that 5 to 8 minutes is too much planning for a 15 to 20 minute mission where you put a little bit of thought into the armor you're going to take and the ammunition you're going to take and how that's going to work? I think it's fair. Now, if your mission is going to be,
well, the good thing is you plan once. If you plan well once,
right?
In general, you should be able
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it may compress some based on your efficiencies and your learning curve. Mm-hmm. But in general, if you're taking on a new thing, right, it might be about 1/3 of the time it takes you to execute it. Take 1/3 of the time it would take to execute it and dedicate that on the front end of planning, right? So that you give it sufficient thought. You can align the equipment you're going to need, the ships you're going to need, maybe ask for some friends in chat, and then you go and you do the thing, and then you have a reasonable chance of success, right? And I think the game designers, CIG, man, they know what they have an idea of how long they think this bunker mission is going to take, right? They're going to give you these cool underground structures. They're going to be X size with X amount of bad guys in them, and their QC guys are going to run those things over and over again. They're going to know how long it takes to run that, more or less. So based on that, I think they could probably figure out about how much time a player needs to prepare, get ready, then execute. And some of that planning can occur while you're en route. That's perfectly fine to cut down on it. But I think between 1/4 and 1/3 of the time it takes to execute a mission is probably what you need to plan for it, right? And then of course with PvP, that's going to go up. That may inverse.
If you're smart, if you're smart, if it's an option, you'll try to daisy chain them. And I imagine they will create missions that are daisy chained for that purpose.
Stack in front of one top of each other.
And
if you go take out this bunker and get the intel, and that leads you to the next mission. Well, you're already armed and got your group together and your ships and the supplies that you need, and everybody's still green on ammo and grenades and stuff. Let's continue on to the next mission. And it's kind of like the daisy chaining box missions, but bigger.
Yeah, but now again, So one of the things actually on the tractor beam video that I thought was so cool, this
Okay.
most recent ISC, was attaching missiles.
I'm going to judge
hard
you
points.
based off of this. Okay.
That was so cool.
It was.
Right?
I thought about you in our first episode of
I
Armchair
was like,
Admirals
oh,
and Generals because you and Night Cobb were so excited about this, and I was like, yeah, I think it's a great idea because we were talking about this back in September.
It's amazing.
We
Now
were
I
so
will say,
yeah.
their storage TTPs for missiles in the back of that Cutlass were something to be desired. I mean, they have this stack of ordnance just laying on the thing, and you're like, oh, Jesus. And then my immediate thought was, wait a minute. So if I stack 35 missiles in the back of my Cuddy and ram it into something, does that like
blow them
add
all up?
all the explosive potential of those missiles into my ship? Because that would be
a new guy. Sit here, hold these.
Sit here and drive that way.
You got you got regen. You'll be fine.
Oh man,
Okay. The company's paying for it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. You'll be fine. We'll compensate you generously. But I will say for PvP, which is different. So I think the 1/3, 2/3 is for PvE. If you're going against players, inverse that. I think it's probably 2/3, 1/3, 3/4 to 1/4. If you're going to go after players, now you need to conduct reconnaissance.
Mhm.
Now, some NPC stuff should require this. I fervently believe it should require this, but players is a different story. So reconnaissance, set your logistical lines early, right? Put some type of forward operating base down, right? Move forces, all that's going to take time for a mission that might only take you 30 minutes to complete. But as Tree said, you may spend 2 days faffing about trying to get everything lit up, but that's because you don't want to lose everything to players. And it also depends on what they allow players to have as far as ground-based defenses, space-based defenses over their base, right? All of that. But that's going to take a lot more than an NPC PvE type thing. Anyway.
Awesome.
Are you going to be the guy at the beginning of the Leroy Jenkins video who's talking about the plan and organizing everything and setting up roles, and talking about how it's going to go and who needs to do what, or are you going to be Leroy? It's up to
that's
you.
it. Yeah,
we're all going to be Leroy once, and then probably the guy who's doing all of. Then we're all going to be the guy who's planning it afterwards because you look at the amount of money, how
at
much
least I got
you
chicken.
lost. Yeah.
and sometimes that may work, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, running in naked and like choke holding all the NPCs as you go through is a tactic. But
Yeah.
I mean,
violence of action, right? You just you charge in and before they can react, but until right now they're like instant reaction gibs. So
yeah.
I see Hey It's Nick is in chat, and so I'm sure we're gonna get a Hey It's Nick soundbite, and with him being Leroy. Hey It's Nick.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're going to be moving on to the question and answer session. If you are watching this after the fact, I will have, on the Monday when this is released, right above Atira's head, there will be a link. You can click that link and you can go watch the full.
It's never here when I point, though.
No, it's never there when you point now. But we'll be able to watch the full question and answer session. I split them up into, I don't really split them up. I leave up the VOD from the actual live stream so you can watch and interact with that on YouTube. And then, but this section right here, because YouTube doesn't like it when they drop both of them. So you can always check that out if you're interested in going to the question and answer session, or you can join us live at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub or youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. I'll also leave a link in the description, probably even the top comment, so you can go to that link as well, is to make it a little bit easier for you mobile folks. But before we go, make sure you are checking out Attirakell on YouTube and Tree0311 and the Armchairs and Generals podcast, which is infrequent, but it's like once a month usually you try to do.
We try to do once a month. We're hopefully going to get another one here in a couple of weeks, but the goal is one a month for Armchair Admirals and Generals, and then 3 episodes of Pathfinders a month.
A month, yeah.
Tree has to not be on drill.
Yes.
Then we can do it.
That was, as I was going to say, like, if you enjoy my, hour-long condensed sessions, but you've said, you know what, I want to hear this, but I want to hear this in more technical detail and for 4 hours, then you should definitely check those out. But
That is us.
yeah. So, because I know a lot of
take note. This is where you learn how to actually do military stuff.
Yeah. And I was going to say or at the very least, for those who are ex-military in CIG, because I know you're there, just point your directors to this podcast. Be like, they understand. Use theirs. But I know a lot of people who do. I would say who like listen to this at work, and they're doing this with other things. They're like, I wish you were longer. I wish I could like listen to your work. If you want a podcast you could listen to for the entire strength of a work period, it's definitely going to be.
We got you covered.
Admiral,
and if you want to,
I'm sure admirals, generals, and pathfinders.
Or you could watch.
If you want to read it,
Soldier's Opinion.
If you want to read it all too,
massive
the show notes are all there.
How long are your episodes for Soldier's Opinion? I've watched a couple of them. I thought they were like 20, 30 minutes.
So some of them are short, some of them are long. Like EW, very long. In fact, I've been told many times now that I should have broken that into 3 episodes because it's about an hour and 45 minutes. But that's because EW is complex.
Yeah.
Right? It's an incredibly complex field. I think Armor was like an hour. Some of my conversations, I think on the Spartan APC was like 20 minutes, right? Because you talk about what it should be or what it should be able to do. So
awesome.
They're deep dives. And sometimes they get technical.
So as well, watch the Soldier's Opinion for Attirakell for those wonderful long episodes. You got between the two of them, you've got an entire work day set up for you right there. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
Okay. Somebody said in here, should you have geared like a G
withstand G-force? Yeah, I almost
but
certainly we should. We do already, but I don't think it's fully incorporated in game yet. Like the suits do help, but they're not like activated. It's more of a planned thing. So, all right, chat. We'll be right back. I'm gonna use the restroom real quickly and get some more water so my voice doesn't go, and then we'll have questions. Questions are open, and let me open up the questions for YouTube, so you and YouTube can do this as well. Start Q&A.
I'm still here. I'm good to go.
Your questions here. Boop. Be right back. I'm sure Tree will be right back too. So.
Yep, I'm back. Have beer.
I've been drinking whiskey this entire time. Loving it.
I need to buy a bottle of bourbon for while I'm here, but I have a few beers left and a bottle. I don't remember who I was talking to in Paul's Discord the other night, but they started talking about wine, and I was like, "Well, I'll go to the grocery store. I guess I'm getting wine now." And so I've got a 3/4 of a bottle of wine still up on the fridge, and now I have 2 beers left in the fridge and 1.
Yeah. So the Navy base that I'm working at has the best whiskey and scotch selection of any normal base I've ever been to.
On base?
Yeah, it's silly.
Wow.
It's silly. Yeah, the only time I've seen its comparison is out in Hawaii at the NEX in Hawaii, which has a massive Class 6. But they carried $1,000 bottles because they had multiple 4 stars and 3 stars that had to entertain people. So they had to have access to some stuff to like impress foreign dignitaries or whatever. But
Yeah, and you've got commands there.
Yes, big
from
commands.
all the branches.
yeah, but here, this is podunk nowhere, right? It actually, I mean, they're not like super high-end $1,000 bottles, but the selection is impressive. I commented on it. I was like, you guys need to keep doing this. Please don't ever. You'll ruin my tour here if you stop doing this. This is amazing.
I'll always take variety over just having a bunch of expensive stuff, because that way you can find the sort of hidden gems.
Yeah, absolutely. Love
Especially
it.
if you know people that know what they're talking about. Be like, hey, I saw this, or do you have any recommendations? Because like I can't buy the expensive shit, but I'll treat
I can't
myself.
buy the expensive stuff. I buy mid-grade at best, right?
I have
$1,000 bottles.
on
We're talking
enlisted
booze?
income, so
We are, yeah. I was commenting the Navy base that I'm at as a liaison is actually got a fantastic selection of mid-grade everything. It's amazing, and it's the best I've ever seen outside of Hawaii. So it's been pretty great.
That's nice. Yeah, I was going to say, my experience is because I live in the land. I lived in Tennessee and then Texas, so I lived in lands of booze, where they make out the booze. So it's usually fairly inexpensive. The mid-grade stuff is usually cheaper than when I was in California, where everything was like twice as expensive.
Well, of course,
But
it's California.
It's California, yeah.
one good thing is you
California
get
and New
liquor in the
York,
grocery
everything is-
store in California.
Everything
Yeah,
is twice as
It's the
expensive.
one saving grace.
I used to know these people. They were like, "Oh man, I can't find a decent house in San Diego," and they were like just out of college. And I was like, "Cause you're an idiot. Why are
'Cause
you
you're-
trying to move
Yeah.
to San Diego and buy a house and you're 21 and you're just out of college, right? Go find an apartment or move to the Midwest where everything's cheaper.
I mean, that was
Then
my-
when you have experience, you can move out to California and live your dream life." I was like,
that was
everything's expensive.
that was part of the reason why I moved to Austin, was because I'd lived in Tennessee for a long time. We moved back to California and we're just like, nope, we gotta go somewhere else. So we decided Austin because figured I could afford a house on the salary that I have. And it was right. So
Washington State has a 30% tax on hard liquor. That
Holy
is
balls.
cruel.
That's
Trouble
criminal.
magnet. Cruel.
What?
that's
Oh my
30%
God.
tax on liquor.
Not okay, man.
Is that on
Not
top
okay.
of sales tax, or is that just replaces sales tax? Because if that's on top of sales tax, go fuck yourself, Washington. Holy shit. That's some hell of a syntax right there.
That is not. That's why you got to go on base if you're in the service and buy there. That's because then none of that
Or make
applies.
friends who can.
Yeah, or make friends who can. You go, but I mean, you can't drive 4 hours across the state to go to.
Yeah.
What is it? It's oh god, I can't think of the name of the base. Lewis McCord. Just for booze.
We had
That includes the sales tax, but still, damn. Yes, that's what he said.
Whew, that's still pretty hot. Yeah. All right.
My.
If y'all good to go, I'll start the recording.
Yeah,
and get right
yeah,
into
yeah.
it.
Let's go.
All good.
Welcome back to the question and answer session with Tree and Attira. We, if you missed our last episode, we talked about why do I keep doing that? If you missed the last episode, you just watched it already. There's no way you didn't just come here from that. You've been watching this from the beginning. Well, welcome back. We're going to do some question and answers, take questions from the chat. Again, as always, make sure that you're checking out Attirakell on YouTube and Tree0311 on YouTube as well for Soldier's Opinion, Armchairs, Generals, and Admirals, and the Pathfinders podcast. With all that being said, let's...
I'm going to
pull
turn on
up-
my lamp and see if this makes it horrifically bright.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
it
good.
makes it so bright. Okay.
What you need is, and this is going to sound weird, but you need, like, if you had like a piece of paper or like a piece of plastic, you probably need like a yellow piece of plastic or like a yellow paper or like even just like a white piece of paper, and then it'll diffuse the light in your face a little bit. You just basically need a diffuser.
Whew. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll turn it off again.
Okay.
You guys don't want to see me that bright. All right. There
That's
we go.
fine.
If you're speaking to me directly, I'm not watching the Twitch right now just because I have to manage my internet
Yeah.
in the hotel.
I
so
am.
I
Somebody
can't
had
respond.
a great pun earlier about infant tree.
Infant tree. You're an infant tree.
Oh my god.
I loved it.
Like a
Well
shrub.
done. Whoever that was.
That's a dad joke. I like it.
The other one, which was just a missed opportunity, you could have called yourself Tree0311.
So Tree is a high school football nickname that followed me to the Marine Corps and then followed me to the fire service and EMS. So people have been calling me Tree since I was 14 years old.
I've met you in person. I know how tall you are.
Yeah.
You're taller than me, and I'm near 6 foot. So
yeah, the 0311 is my first MOS as a Marine infantryman. But yeah, the North End Troopers mentioned that there was a Bar Citizen in Boise back home that I obviously missed. And yeah, I really wish I could have been there because we have a good little group up in Boise. We had a lot of fun getting together. So looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, Northern was talking about that earlier. He was telling me all about the. He actually set up some pictures and stuff like that. Someone was wearing. So whoever was the organizer was wearing Drake, and so a bunch of people in the Discord were like, "That's it. You can't trust that." I'm like, "Of course you can trust the man. He's wearing a Drake shirt. Just don't trust the guy wearing the Aegis shirt." All right, let's get started with the first question, which is from NovA42, who asks, "What was your first ship? What is your favorite ship? And what is your dream/holy grail ship?" He asked this for everyone. I'll start with you on this, Attira. Your first ship, your dream, your favorite ship, and then like if you could get a ship that's not out that you want to get, or you don't have that's out that you want to get, or a ship that exists that doesn't exist yet that you might want to see.
Okay. My first ship, I mean, I made a joint purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the first one I think I put in the inbox or the purchase box, the basket, was the Constellation Andromeda. And oh gosh, that was like 7 years ago. What was it? So that was my first ship.
Your favorite ship?
My favorite ship. Oh boy. That's a tough question. Man. For a long time, it was the Vanguard series.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really enjoyed it, right? It was fantastic. Right now, just because it's so much fun to fly, I think maybe it's the Scorpius. I know it's not a meta ship anymore, but it's just a lot of fun to fly. Whatever. So I'm not really worried about meta. I'm worried about fun, and it's maneuverable. It's a good time. As far as my dream ship, there are two. Okay. So one is a reclaimer, right? Because I love the idea of salvage, and I love that CIG is going the direction they're going, where I can pull off a weapon, put it in my hold, and put it on my own ship. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's where it needs to be. I want to be able to loot somebody's grade A military components and take that shit for myself. It's mine. I love
every piece of the animal.
Yep, every piece of the animal, baby. I love that they're doing that. But the second one is the Perseus, which, as far as like crew efficiency, am I saying that right? Yeah, Perseus, right? 6-man, anti-cap ship, basically patrol boat, right? Non-capital ship. Fight me, non-capital ship. But it is a Tree's laughing. But it is a fantastic design. I think it's just gorgeous. And on top of that, ultimate crew efficiency for damage output. And I think when that releases, they really need to push that bad boy out. I think rolling that into like something like the Nine Tails, Xeno Threat event will be so much freaking fun. Oh my gosh, how much fun that ship's going to be. And so that's my dream ship.
It's a lot smaller than you think too. It's
that's okay.
I think it's about the size of a Connie. It's a little bigger than the Connie, which is really weird to think about because it looks.
I think when they actually put it together, it will kind of be very close to a hammerhead. Yeah. Right.
Thick.
Yeah, but it looks mean. It looks mean.
Yeah. But it looks mean. It's got a very Bodie kind of shape to it, which I also love. You want it to look. Face. Yeah, Bodie McBoatface face with shape to it. It's gorgeous. It's big old guns, and you're gonna go in. And I think it's the closest thing we're gonna get to a true battleship. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that the cruiser thing is going to be out there, and it's going to have big guns on it, but you're going to have to kill a whole lot of UEE dudes to get your hands on that ship.
Yeah.
And I think if you just want like kind of anti-cap ship gunplay, at least for a very long time, that's going to be the ship, and I think it's going to be awesome. So.
Yeah. It's the perfect grab a beer, hang out with your friends, and just go mess stuff up kind of ship.
Just go blow stuff up. It'll
Yeah.
be great.
It won't be as
We're
it
talking
won't
about
be
respecting
as,
your time.
yeah.
I think if you're wanting to fight Vanduul, and go into Vanduul health systems and just collect bounty on how many Vanduul kills can you get for their light the light fight not quite capital ships or just barely capital ships. I think that's going to be a ton of fun if you can your little squadron of you and 10 friends in a couple of
Perseises
going out into Persei going into Virgil.
Oh yes, what is that?
And just having a great time.
It's
But
Persei.
you set your Persei up once, and then you go out and you just go hunting, and you don't stop hunting until you've had your fill. I think it'll be great fun.
That's great kind of thing.
Or you get shot up.
Yeah. Tree, your first ship, your favorite ship, and your dream ship. I already know what your dream ship is, but we'll let you say it. I'll let you describe it.
We'll entertain that briefly. So my first ship was I think it's the digital colonel package or was it digital lieutenant colonel? I can't remember. With the Hornet.
I have such a joke right now that I'm not going to say.
Well, it was
so hard.
one of the few. There was only a handful of like game packages available at the time, and that was one of the. And that was. I think it's the veteran backer or original backer. I don't remember which one I am, but like within 6 months of the original Kickstarter is when I backed, and so that's when I bought that, and I've held on to it ever since.
Backer.
Yeah.
It's within the first.
And I have
year.
Yeah, and I have that, and I have the F7A cosmetic skin upgrade thing for it, and so I'll never get rid of it because it's my first package, and I love the look of the F7A, and apparently those are very sought after now, and I bought it because it was for a charity event and it was a good cause, and so I'm never going to let go of it, and I still love that ship, even though I really suck at flying it.
The F7A.
So that was my first.
That has the skin for the F7A, right?
Yeah,
you can't apply the skin yet.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
And it technically is a body mod kit, so it actually fully changes the ship so it looks like the F7A. It doesn't just it's not a skin of the F7A. It changes it into an F7A. I don't think you can
it's an
equipment, but
it's an F7CM is what I have. So it's the dual seat and all that. My favorite ship, I would say my favorite ship is the Valkyrie, just because it's a drop ship, and Space Marines. The Valkyrie. I've always been a huge fan of the Aliens franchise, and so the Valkyrie took a lot of design cues from the Cheyenne, from Aliens, and so I'm a big fan of it. And I like anything where in any sort of space IP where there are planetary landings going from space to surface. So your Aliens, Starship Troopers, Star Wars, all those sorts of things.
Hell Jumpers.
I love that. Yeah, super cool. And so I think that the Valkyrie is not where it needs to be yet, but I do like the design of the ship, and I like the capabilities of it, and it's fun to fly. And when they just mentioned how they're developing the tech to allow for dynamic use of the thrusters they're developing for the Santok Yai, and they'll be using that to make it so that way the Valkyrie flies like it does in the commercial, where it's sort of a fly-by-wire, and if you decide to brake, it'll move the thrusters forward like that to slow you down. And so and I love VTOLs, and I think VTOLs are quintessential sci-fi. So it's got 4 of them, and so I love the Valkyrie. And then my dream ship, if you have spent any time in Paul's Discord, or if you haven't joined my Discord, I highly encourage you to come hang out. my one and only short form video that I've done is about the hypothetical LPD LHD. And
oh Lord, here we go.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I knew it was going to happen.
I'm not going to go into detail. If you want to learn more about it, go watch the video. It's at the top of my YouTube. It's got 16,000 views. So it did pretty well. But
yeah,
I'm
not to brag.
Originally, I'm pretty proud of it. I think it turned out pretty well. It was my first shot. So there's a lot of information to support the existence of such, in Star Citizen. And I'm a former infantry Marine, and I deployed twice on LPDs, LHDs, spent a lot of time living on them. I think the capabilities are really fascinating and interesting. And, I think they're, when we think of quintessential sci-fi, we always think of the starfighters and the Star Destroyer types, big ships like that. And we don't think about workhorses, which is what workhorses in terms of projecting power across space, and that's really the LPD and the LHD, and so that's why they're the ultimate logistics ships, because they do logistics for your ground troops as well as your other smaller ships, and that's why I like it. It's a support ship that supports all your needs. For an extended deployment, because that's the kind of gameplay I'm interested in. I want to go into Null or Oberon or Caliban and be far from where all the infrastructure is and operate out of my mobile base ship for an extended period of time with my friends.
Awesome. I will
watch the video.
Watch the video. It's pretty good. You say 16,000. It still has more views than any of the views any of the videos on this channel does. On any of my one videos. So
took off a lot more than I thought it would. And now I'm like, oh crap, I don't know how to do this again.
I mean, it's a great idea because it'll earn CIG probably 2 or 3 million right off the first day, right? I mean,
easy.
Big ships, people love to buy them.
Charge
$1,000.
All you have to do is call it a crafting ship, and people will throw their wallets at it, because that's what it is. It effectively is a logistics ship, so it works as a crafting ship. It's just the same concept, a repair ship.
Oh yeah,
so
I could totally see them having the Star Citizen version of room size 3D printers.
Yeah,
for stuff. And all I have to do is feed it the right materials, and
Yep.
sustain you with the bullets, beans, and band-aids.
For my first ship, I've answered this a bunch of times, but my first ship was the Pathfinder package, actually, which was the 315P when that first came out. The story there is just I'm an idiot, and I didn't read properly because I kept looking through all of the packages for alpha access, and either CIG had pulled a CIG and forgot to add alpha access to all the packages. And the first package that actually had that said alpha access was the Pathfinder package, the 315P package, or I'm a moron, didn't see it. But anyways, it was the first thing I saw. I'm like, it's a little pricey. It's $75, but I'll buy it.
A little pricey.
Yeah. This was me before the 10 I have
the addiction.
Before I have the now 600i executive and the but then my favorite ship right now is the Cutlass. The Cutlass Black, just because you can just do anything with it. But I know, and I've said this before, that my favorite ship when 4.0 comes out is going to be the Freelancer, because say what you want about the Freelancer, that thing can go. It just has
a good ship.
It has a lot of range and it can hold a ton of cargo for what you need to.
If you have a base Freelancer or
the Max
or the DUR.
The DUR, but I mean the Freelancer base has a huge fuel tank. So you add the DUR on top of it. The DUR has an even larger fuel tank. So you're dealing with
about half the cargo. But yes.
Yeah. It's still huge.
Still like I had a DUR for ages. It's a great ship.
It's still a lot of beer and pizza.
Yeah. And
what do you need?
I have a Max now, and I agree with you. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and people don't like you look at the Max and go, okay, whatever. It's like it's 120 SCU, and
it's a big cargo hold,
and it has 4 size 3 guns on it, plus
Yes,
full
sir.
ranges of missiles. It's
Yes, sir.
it is not something you scoff at. Like that thing can hurt you if you're not paying attention to it. Plus the gunner seat, which hopefully gets improved. Yeah, that's my favorite pyro ship. But my favorite ship right now is the Cutlass. When the second the pyro comes out, the Cutlass is going to end up being like the meme from with Toy Story. I don't want to play with you anymore. Like just moving over to the freelancer. Just because I don't think it's going to have the range.
You'll have to update its quantum to be like the slowest but longest range.
Yes, for that ultimate, marathon runs. And my ideal ship is, I've changed my mind. My ideal dream ship is, I guess it's the Cutlass Purple and or the solo the junk traveling ship from Fifth Element, where like he's hanging out in the window and the guys
the noodle guy's
there, and then he pops up and moves away like a mobile storefront.
Oh yeah, I was like
a Banu Merchantman, but a small.
Oh yeah.
So like a starter Banu Merchantman, like
definitely needs to be a thing.
Yeah. And that's why I say the Cutlass Purple, because it's like a medium thing, like a Banu Merchantman, but medium. So
medium.
Yes, just medium. Those sorts of things, because I think that's a fascinating gameplay, especially with NPC behavior being added in, and will 100% be a thing that people will do just for fun, if not for
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
If you're just flying around and you're finding wrecks and stuff like that, and you're tractor beaming the things that, this is still intact and functional. This is going to my cargo hold, and now I can put it on my, your space Etsy list of things that you have to sell. And
come see Paul's wonderful junk of curiosities. Like I've got this off of a dead Van Duel. This is
WTS. Size 5. Lightly used, still good condition,
lightly used. It's like bent 90 degrees.
It's a blood stains on it. Don't ask questions.
Only killed one, UEE Marine.
All right. Next question comes from Roguice, who asks, should Star Citizen adopt some kind of fast travel or skip on the city commutes for the only can play an hour type of players? Tree, I'll start with that with you on this one.
For the only what?
For the people who can only play like an hour, do you think they should add some sort of fast travel in cities?
So this has been a complaint that's been going around for a long time, because especially if you die before you can reset your respawn point, and all that stuff, this is one of those things where it's does CIG put effort into developing a mechanic like this when it's not going to be an issue? The CIG will give you a reason to visit a city, but you waking up in your hab and having to make the commute all the way to the spaceport and then get out into space is not going to be your typical gameplay. And certainly not for much longer, as they continue to stabilize PES. The whole goal has always been for you to either live out of your ship or live out of a hab at a station, and if you want to go back to the city and live out of the city for a while, it's because you're doing gameplay in the city. But it's, the goal for design-wise is for you to be able to live, out of your area of operations and be able to quickly get back into the game without making that long commute. The way it's been is a misnomer for the way it will be and the way it's intended to be. And so I don't think it'd be a good use of dev resources to make let's fake the commute part when, they're, like right now, and my experience is not the same as most people, just because I'm fortunate enough that, I don't know if it's due to optimizations or what, but I don't run into a ton of bugs. But I live largely out of my ship and have been for quite some time. And I set my spawn, even if I'm planning on living out of my ship, I set my spawn point to the nearest station to where I'm going to be running missions, because that way I can get out of, in and out quickly if I do die. And so it's a we're close enough to we're a lot closer to the end than we are to the beginning, and so it's really not a thing. And if you're in the future, you're going to have a reason to be in the city, and so if you're taking the tram all the way to the spaceport, it's because you're leaving, and you're not going to be running around in the city anymore, and you're planning on leaving for a period. That's not you're not intended to commute every day.
Yeah. Tira, same question. Do you think they should add fast travel for cities?
No.
There, simple. That's all
Simple,
required there.
right? Well, because I agree with Tree. Now,
yeah.
I mean, legitimately, it's a 3 to 5 minute ordeal if you know your way around that particular city. Right? A place like Hurston for a new player can be a bit intimidating. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
You might get lost, but once you know your way, it's pretty quick, and then it's maybe a 45-second ride to the thing, and you're out. Do I like tram rides? No. Does everybody like tram rides? No. It's but they are creating. It's their vision, right? That you're gonna have to sometimes take a train, public transit to get where you're going. Now, I do think it's interesting because it's a broader question. It's how many time sinks should there be? And we have plenty of examples of money sinks, right? Repair, rearm, refuel, right? You lose armor pretty frequently, so you have to go buy new armor, buy new weapons, whatever, right? And until you get a good package sitting in your local inventory at some station, right? But how many? I mean, they have built in some like hardcore time sinks. So while I don't think that they should necessarily get rid of tram rides or create an artificial skip function for that, I do think they should be very careful not to create anything longer than about 45-second train ride. If you got me sitting there for a couple of minutes on a train, you're doing it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not a time. The time sinks equal not fun for most people. So it's just finding that balance.
It's also built around tech because every elevator and every tram is taking you from one entity zone to another. Those are there in order to spread out the game population. It's designed that way on purpose. And so people hate elevators, they hate trams, but they're also there as part of the design of the game and the back end. So that way they can split entity zones apart and keep areas that are designed to be split based off of server load and player load separated, and give the server time to transition authority for you from one entity zone to another.
So I see somebody say here, man, the perimeter at Loreville is long.
It's it's almost 2-3 minutes long. Yeah.
It's too long.
Yeah.
Look,
I wonder if that's going to change with the new,
because they're changing Loreville. All of New Loreville. That's actually something they mentioned. They didn't mention it, but it's something they implied that's one of the reasons why I wanted to redo Loreville, because it's the only one that has that problem.
And I can't. So last night, me and the guys were playing, and I forgot, because I haven't played since 3.17, whatever, and it's fine. We go to deliver a box mission, and this goes back. Actually, this goes back to game design. Does CIG respect your time? They put a box drop-off location at a ground vehicle spawn point that you could not fly to. So you needed a ship to go get the box, and you could do that in a C8 Pisces. But to deliver that box, you got one of two choices. You can land outside the impound zone, the flight clearance zone, and run your tox like 2 kilometers to the drop-off point and 2 kilometers back to your ship. Or you can go and request clearance to land, and then take a 5-minute series of trains to drop off the box. That is not a respect for our time.
No.
Period. Full stop.
The train ride between where you're going in Loreville to the spaceport, the most common destination, should be plenty short. But if you're going to skip multiple stops to get to your destination, okay, well, you're planning on going someplace that's far, and that's you're doing that for a reason, as part of a mission or a job.
If that's for like something that makes sense, I think that's fine. But for a level 1 box mission, wherein it cost 4,000 credits, you're now asking me to you're
10
to
minutes.
spend 10 minutes just to get to the drop-off point. That's silly. Now, I think 319 and the Hurston rework will fix that.
Yeah.
Right? But CIG should be careful of recreating that problem anywhere. Like if you're going to put a box drop-off location or some type of drop-off anything, pick up anything, don't put a no-fly zone around it.
No.
Now, I mean, let me just, especially like in a secure zone. Like I get it if it's a dangerous place, I have to infiltrate and go get a thing. That's like a mission, and that's like a tactical move, and we can imply all kinds of mission requirements on that. But on the backside where you're dropping it off at a safe place, I shouldn't have to run 10 kilometers back and forth to my ship to complete the mission. That's silly.
Yeah.
So
answering a quick question in the YouTube chat, Jordan asked if they need to ask it again. No, if you use the token on the Twitch chat, then I have it. So, but yeah, I will reflect with y'all as saying we don't need a fast travel. We don't need a fast travel, because the other thing to remember is that CIG is going to make our apartments, at least they seem to be implying, physical. So if you're going to be having an apartment in Lorville, for instance, there's probably going to be some sort of garage of some kind that you can park your ship at. So you get out of your bed in your hab, you take the elevator up to like your garage, you access your hangar, you get out of your ship and you fly out, just like a normal apartment complex sort of thing. So you won't even have to make that travel. I think CIG will do everything they can to make it so that those trams are going to specific locations for specific reasons. But I agree with that we don't need fast travel, but CIG needs to also respect just how long those are going to take. So
yeah.
All right, and the next question comes from Tico Rico 1, who asks, with Vulcan coming, have you guys realized how well Star Citizen's mechanics work with VR? Everything from physical buttons to character item ports seem to facilitate VR gaming with hands. The answer to that question is yes, because if you follow Star Citizen's development, there are at least, is it Yogi? I think it's Yogi. Yogi, who's one of the big people who does a lot of systems in Star Citizen, is a huge VR fan. And the people who do the Vulcan integration, all of them have gone on record in saying they want VR Star Citizen. They want a VR experience with Star Citizen. So it's not surprising that CIG is building this with the context of we want to do VR. I think the only thing that's stopping them from long term is how characters move, because you're going to need to like track the movements, and the animations will have to be different from that and that kind of stuff. So, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see a Star Citizen VR, Attira?
Oh yeah, I won't be able to do it. I think that'll make me sick. But look, do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely, and I think it's going to be awesome. I mean, you can look at what things like, what is it, Star Trek Bridge Crew, right?
Yeah,
that was pretty cool, man. What a cool really concept. Fun. What a cool execution. I think Star Citizen is going to be amazing. Now, I mean, I've seen stuff, really cool stuff that the Army's doing, wherein it's all a part of simulation stuff, where they map the inside of, let's just use an example, a Bradley fighting vehicle. And then there's a series of VR panels, and then I can't describe to you how perfect it was. They perfectly aligned what you saw in the visor with the physical panels that they recreated in the simulation. Because there were certain things that Gunner said they absolutely had to have tactile response to, right? To be able to effectively practice gunnery. And so they did this, they created this, and you watch it, it was amazing. And I think you will see an entire like subgenre of the community that are creating cockpits specific to a ship.
Yeah.
Do something similar. And
So
it's
they can
going to be awesome.
flip and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. If the Army can do it and we're the most inefficient behemoth on earth, some amazing fan of the game is going to put together this badass like Vanguard.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Gladius cockpit where every button matches perfectly and he can go in there and in VR it's perfectly aligned to his hand and he's hitting buttons and he's doing all this stuff. That's going to be awesome.
Tree, what do you think? Do you think they're setting up for VR?
Yeah, they definitely have been designing it for a long time to support VR, because that's one, like, from way back. They've been talking about that for a while as something that they want to do and have been trying to set things up for it. And I think a lot of the design that they're talking about, where they've mentioned in the monthly reports with actual animations for you touching buttons and what's the word for that, where they don't have to do a bespoke animation for a you press button, a ghost button, but that way they can lay the buttons out. Yeah, they can lay the buttons out in the cockpit for that, but that way the buttons are there and it also works for both systems. So because I think that's part of the reason they haven't introduced more buttons, is they haven't been able to get the hand
they're also not DCS.
Part. Yeah. Well, there's that too, but there's going to be people who DCS who want to DCS in Star Citizen, which is
boy, I think, please give me my flight ready, baby.
Hit the button.
Like you, Attira, I'll probably never do VR just because I think I don't think I would do well with that level of immersion. I don't get nauseous in the back of my Blackhawk, but I think I would probably get nauseous with a VR headset on.
I've been nauseous with the VR headset on.
Themicles, the IK. I think that the IK work, and then in every post that what's the dev's name? The Gen 12 guy.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah,
Sylvan.
Sylvan.
Every time that Sylvan, he'll explain something for Gen 12 and Vulcan, and then at the end of the post he'll talk about VR.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. Sylvan is the one.
Yeah, I think I think it's one of those things where it's very heartening to see someone that passionate about it basically be at the helm of incorporating it. And it's always those are the parts of SCL that I enjoy seeing, is when Jared interviews somebody on SCL or ISC who is clearly very passionate about a feature or a piece of tech, and they're the ones working on it. And that's what I like, regardless of what it is. And I think that the execution for VR is probably going to be pretty dang amazing if Sylvan has anything to do with it. And I don't think we're that far away, because they talked about how Gen 12 was a much larger hurdle than Vulcan is, the integration. So hopefully we'll see some work on that in the next year.
Come up.
You don't have VR until the frame rates would come up. Yeah, it's true. But that's Vulcan. Like, Vulcan is the thing that's going to get our frames up to that 90 plus frames, because Vulcan can take what we have with it took Doom 2016 on potato level system and could run it at like 90, 100 FPS. So Vulcan is a really well optimized sort of framework for making games run better. So. All right. We've got 13 questions, so we're almost. We started off with question 3, so let's go through these a little bit faster. Nove A42 asks, "What do you see the role of the Vulcan versus Crucible in repair?" Tree, I'll start with you on this one.
I did a big old Pathfinder segment on drones a while back. Nazareth and I went full bore on drones, because there's actually a lot of information scattered about drones. But the Vulcan is purely drone gameplay, regardless of whether you're refueling, rearming, or repairing. And the way the Vulcan drones So the way they talked about in the development of the Vulcan with drones is that the drones would be able to grab things, and so and push them around. And so I fully expect us to be able to, like, if you remember from the Gladius and Saber Gold Standard, they have the external components. And so if you can remember seeing that ISC where you could hop up on top of those ships and open the component panels and get a component out. Well, now we're having components that are able to be removed. If you can remove it, a drone, with your hands, a drone will also be able to remove it. And so with the Vulcan, it is intended from the original design of that ship that the drone would be able to use its little grabby claws to grab onto whether it's a missile or a small component, or maybe even a box of ammo. We don't know. We talked about this on Armchair and Admirals, but being able to replace those things. But I don't think that the Vulcan drones are intended to do anything other than replacing components. Not the tiny little replacing subcomponents that you probably won't have much of those on the small ones anyway. And then spraying a new skin on your ship when you've taken hits through the hull. You're not going to be able to rebuild structure, and so you'll be able to get your ship flying again if you have the replacement components, which is kind of specific, and then you'll be able to patch up holes in the hull with a Vulcan. Whereas the Crucible is designed the Crucible not only has drones, so can do the same thing with drones, but the Crucible also has the big arms, and the original design for the Crucible was to be able to basically 3D print the structure of the ship to replace it. So in theory, the way the Crucible is designed in the original design docs is that you could use the big long spindly arms to 3D print, reprint the structure of a wing, or a pylon to attach an engine on, and then you could use either those or the drones in order to put the whole skin back on. The big question with the Crucible, and obviously you'll be able to replace components whether you're using them, moving them in by hand or by a tractor beam or using a drone, on certain size ships. The big question with the Crucible that is on my mind when I had this discussion with others prior to the podcast was, things like your engines. You have your Valkyrie, and you took damage and you lost one of your VTOL thrusters, your main thrusters, or maybe it's a bigger ship, your big thruster on a Perseus. And congratulations, you got the dang thruster imbalance warning just blaring in front of your face like crazy. Are you going to be able to attach a new one with a Crucible? And that's the thing we don't know because it's not mentioned. It's not talked about. It was never demonstrated. There was no concept imagery of it. And I think that's the impetus for for the larger repair ship, the capital class one. A lot of people think that the Crucible is just going to get ginormous in size, and I'm like, no, I think we're going to have a capital class repair ship that can, if you know what ships in a fleet you're supporting.
Space station.
Yeah, you can. Well, and a space station too, but space stations don't move, and you need a space station to repair a capital ship and replace capital class components. But subcapitals, a large, a medium ship,
lots of SRVs.
Yeah.
Drag it back.
Does Star Citizen respect your time? Are you going to be able to have the time to drag someone all the way back from Virgil?
Depends on what they pay.
Just to replace a single engine. And so I think there's room for it because we have ships like that in real life. And I love the Vulcan. I own one. I think the Vulcan is going to be the workhorse in systems like Pyro. The Crucible is going to be cool, but I think there's a lot of room for a ship larger than the Crucible to service your Perseus, your Hammerhead, your Carrack out in the field that are not capital.
The infamous, what are they called? Coal trawlers,
Oh, we talked about this. Dang it.
Yeah. It's like a
Collier.
Collier.
Yeah,
The infamous
Collier.
Collier. Yeah. Because Colliers, I had to look this up because they are in Star Citizen. In the Star Citizen lore, there was a reference to a Collier, which was the Hammerhead replaced an old Collier ship that was converted to do fleet screening, and so they didn't have a bespoke Hammerhead until they built the Hammerhead. And
a lot of first generation destroyers were Colliers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Colliers and subtenders. We have Colliers now for en route replenishment, but they also do repairs.
Yeah.
They will move people over and equipment over. I want to say it was a destroyer or a cruiser. When I was deployed, had to have one of its props replaced.
Screws,
while we were deployed, and we're out in the middle of the damn Indian Ocean. And so it was under less power because it had a damaged prop, and they I don't know that's but they literally had people come out and pull alongside, and they had a thing, and they were able to replace it while we're underway and get things going, get it going again.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's a thing, and it's a thing in other IPs. If you Star Wars has them, they're big old fuel repair, resupply, repair and refuel ships for Star Destroyers.
I will say the simple answer for me is basically what you already said, is that the Vulcan is your roadside assistance vehicle, and your Crucible is your mobile garage. But you definitely need bigger ones. We need something for the freelancers, the vanguards, those sorts of things.
The name of the organization that the brochure for the Crucible was all about.
It's like Space AAA. I forgot the name of it. It's the Wayfarers Club. The Wayfarers Club is what it's
exactly.
called. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's who you're going to have to get rep with to get these contracts to go do that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Atira, what do you think? Do you think what do you think the role of the Crucible is versus the role of the Vulcan?
I'm gonna put it at a much simpler, shorter framework. Your Vulcan is your battalion motor pool, repair, replace parts. Your Crucible is going to be, you might have one Crucible and a Vulcan working at brigade or some other level, right? Translate that to fleet ops. So you have, your forward repair, replenish, emergency repair is going to be your Vulcan. Your 2 jumps back, 3 jumps back, that might be a Crucible. And then if you're on extended ops in a PvP situation, which I hope we get something like an Eve level of interaction between large orgs, then you would have Crucibles that are servicing those larger ships. And I think also, was it the Crucible designed to have those little spider legs come out and attach to larger ships and create these lattices that they could then move across and do like capital ship repair? They don't multiple upon a single cap ship, right? And then they all do repair work together. So you'd have like an organization run division, and I'm using Army terms because that's what I know, division or core level, right? 2, 3, 4 levels up. That's your Crucibles. So your operational and strategic repair sit within the Crucible lane or a space station, and your tactical to operational reside with your Vulcan.
Okay. All right. Next question comes from Library Science, who asks, do you think that a combat pilot should have to wear a special suit in order to withstand the extreme G-forces if they subject themselves to, or should they be able to sit in a med gown? And this comes up with another question that was up there, which was asking about, is there even a, where was that? I think someone else said something like, do you need to wear suits? Yeah, I don't see it here, but we wear suits. Personally, yes. I think specialization should be a thing in Star Citizen, because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that right now, when you jump out into 0G and you have like you know, you can move around with your WASD, and it gives you little mouse farts of gas that gets you to move around. That's not going to be there in
Yep.
post 4.0. You won't have that anymore. You'll have to have an actual rig set up for you to do those EVA ops. That's why they have the multi-tool. The multi-tool is designed, that tractor beam is designed to pull you in 0G. That's what it was really designed to do, to be your kind of push-pull, plus push and pull on the ships and stuff like that. So, yeah, like, if we have stuff like that, then we should 100% have suits that you have to wear that will prevent you from wearing like heavy armor or other things that's just designed to keep you awake while you're pulling heavy maneuvers. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah. I mean, you got flight suits. That's part of it. The ship, that's part of it. I think there's certainly room in the equipment inventory for a fighter pilot to have something equivalent to the G suits we have on our pilots today. And, that would take up the leg slot for armor. But it provides 0 armor. It does absolutely nothing for you in an FPS environment. It is purely to mitigate G forces. And then you might have something for your chest as well that does something similar. And then, the two combined might have a drastic effect, like, progressive effect, right? If you buy all the equipment, you get all the best effect. If you only have pieces of it, then you only get a certain percentage of the effect. And so a person pulling high G's in their bathrobe, they're going to pass out a lot easier than a person who is properly prepared to sit in that cockpit and fly. And then that does, as you say, it makes armor lockers and things like that matter, right? Because you're going to prep to fly out there with X amount of gear, and then you're going to have to land, pause, change, exchange gear, reprep, and then it all comes back to planning. Do you have the right equipment in your ship to conduct the operations you're trying to do, right? And then, away you go. And then you execute your mission. So, the Avenger ones, I always go back to him. I love his videos. He's got the full freaking combat flight suit on, and he's pulling, I don't know, whatever these ships, sometimes it's ridiculous, like 32 Gs or some ridiculous amount, right? But he's only barely blacking out, and then he's pulling out of it and keep going. But you're out there in your freaking hospital gown, out like a light, right?
Yeah.
I think that is absolutely fair for what they envision. And I think that would be a great opportunity for them to expand the gear lineup that we have currently.
What do you think, Tree?
I'm going to step away.
So if and again, this is a design thing. We have drop seats in drop ships in order to hold you in them and allow you to be able to withstand G forces. You have your pilot seat in fighter ships, and it's small enough to hold you in place, but you only wear a flight suit, the appropriate flight suit. It's dress for the job you want, dress for the job that you're doing, and it's part of decision making and planning. And if you want to be a fighter pilot, dress like a damn fighter pilot. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a fighter pilot. I don't know lots of fighter pilots, but when they get in their fighters, they're wearing a flight suit and they wear the G suit stuff, but they're not wearing a full set of body armor like I do when I'm in the back of my helicopter. My pilots and I, when we're in Afghanistan, we are flying with a helmet and body armor, because we're close to the ground and there's a good chance that we'll get shot at by ground fire, and for me, we land and I get out of the aircraft and I have to go do a mission. So I'm dressed for the job, but it doesn't make sense for me to be wearing a G suit because we don't run into G's like that. And so it's ship specialization, like drop ships, because the drop ships are intended for you to be able to pull G's and not have your pilot and the people in the drop seats black out. But again, if you're trying to do Valkyrie or Legionnaire style maneuvers, and you have people not sitting in the drop seats, and you have pilots not wearing the appropriate gear, then you should totally pass out, and be able to function.
Yeah, I think it's definitely Definitely better. I mean, I don't think CIG ever wants to sit there and go like, no, you can't fly unless you have a flight suit. But like right now, today, we do have what are called G suits, and effectively what they do, based off of what I understand and how G suits work, is that they actually have pressure points on your body which clench.
They have bladders.
Yeah, they have bladders
Yeah.
which will clench, which will force blood
Out of your legs.
out of your legs, so you don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't pool, and then you black out or red out.
Correct.
And
Well,
it's-
you're gonna red out. There's nothing on your head
Yeah,
pushing
that's true.
blood down.
Yeah, true. It's blackout, so it prevents you from blacking out. But it's only a tool. It's only an assistance tool. That's why pilots do hours of G training, where like they get into those big centrifuges and then try to see how long they can last before they're passing out at like ungodly like 15 G's of force, where their whole body feels like it's like 2 tons or whatever on their body, trying to prevent themselves from blacking out. And the goal being that they can survive those limited bursts of G's. And I think especially with Star Citizen, it's a video game, and it's, you want to have some sort of organic class system anyways. So there's nothing that's hard wired, but yeah, just makes sense. And I was going to point out, and Zero G rated. Hello, Zero G, Zero State. Welcome from Zero State's stream. The Expanse used space G's as well. Yeah. So, and there was also mentioned that Jin as well that said the BB-12 man maneuvering unit, that's what in space the astronauts have, the MMUs, which are these small packs that they wear, which gives them the little maneuvering ability. And that's what we're going to get eventually in Star Citizen, is that you'll have people who can wear the full kit for like going out and salvaging, where they can like maneuver into a place and do salvage work, or do like pull out those components and maneuver back without any.
Those things are pretty big. I hope 900 years from now they're very small and efficient.
I'm sure they'll be much smaller and efficient. But they'll also have like fuel. So like you'll actually have to like be efficient with them. You don't just like go nuts with them. So did I say zero threat again? He always said this. zero state.
Xeno threat, Xeno state, zero state, all these X's.
The funny part about that was when Xeno threat first came out, I remember Zero State tweeting out about how many times people shot him on accident because they just saw the XE in his name and immediately tried to fire at him thinking he was a Xeno threat. It's just like,
same team,
please.
I can't wait
to
to have come back. My system was not great when that series of missions launched, and now that I have a good computer or an updated computer, I really want them to release that again so I can experience it in all its glory.
Oh, it was I wasn't able to play when they did the testing of it for 318 because they tested it out. But what I heard was it was fantastic until all of the ships were destroyed, and then the whole place became a minefield of dead ships because of just how many ships get spawned in Xenothreat. It just became nuts. So
I'll remember the image from, was it the monthly report with the Bengal behind Jericho Station?
Yes.
And the Bengal and the Javelin?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Xenothreat 2.0 is coming.
Having an
it's going to get interesting.
Upgrade from the Warhammer, so we're now going to actually see a Bengal carrier show up to fight off Xenothreat.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a little overkill, but I mean, what do you what is Xenothreat going to bring to bear against the Bengal?
Well, to be fair, in at least in terms of like the position of Stanton is like it's kind of like the trading lanes between through the Red Sea through what was it, the Suez Canal. Like whenever the Somalian pirates decide to act up and try to raid those oil tankers that come down there, like the navies of the world bring down like the hammer, and that's kind of what this is like. Xenothreat is trying to attack one of the biggest arteries of commerce in the UEE. Eventually the UEE is going to send a carrier group to deal with the problem, so it's no longer a problem. But
I'm Admiral Ernst Bishop, and the UE Navy just recalled me from my hard-earned vacation.
yeah.
Y'all done messed up.
That's going to be on Pyro. I mean, he would push into Pyro.
Yeah, he would.
Like, congratulations, this system is now mine. Let's go.
All right. Next question, and I'll start with you on this one, Attira. Northern Trooper asks, with the new tractor beam pulling off weapons and components being added without the normal amount of hype and leaks, what other technology could you see be slipped into Star Citizen this year? So what other kind of tech do you think we'll see from Star Citizen on top of like this new tractor stuff? Because we were able to do it without no one knew that they were doing this until they announced it.
Oh man, that's some crystal ball stuff right there.
Yes, go crazy. Give me your ponder your orb and tell me what it says.
Okay, so this may be okay.
It's probably wrong. This is better.
this is 100% wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna throw it out there because they did the Antares and it only has 2 buttons.
Okay.
Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Data spike missiles.
Okay.
With some level of because I can't remember, because unlike Tree, I cannot internalize the entire roadmap. When is like tier 0 hacking supposed to arrive or something like that? Never went. Is that not on the roadmap yet? They've been talking about it for a while.
No.
All right. Well, maybe they'll sneak in something like that. Because look, you gave us a ship that has 2 buttons for one person, and it's not fun. And it's kind of boring, and it's like going on a roller coaster ride, and getting money passively. So maybe a data spike missile where, like, if you hit it, you can select like 1 or 2 systems to like tier 0 hack shut down, and then that gives that player something to do in the back of that ship. Because I mean, why else would they launch a ship with a seat that has 2 buttons on it and nothing else to do?
Yeah, it's gotta have more things to do. I think
that's silly.
All right, data spike missiles. Tree.
Sure, why not?
What other technology do you think they're going to sneak in there?
So the hacking was actually my pick before you even said anything.
Ooh.
And yeah, MANCHACA. Tree knows the roadmap better, and I know my house. I'm Jake's biggest fan. I'm the cheerleader for Team Jake, and I hope that he gets everything he wants for Christmas and more.
Yes.
But no, if you follow the roadmap and the reports for Shiny Tracker, hacking actually did get another sprint or 2 added to it, and it hasn't had any work in a little while, and so the bar just got moved a little bit. But they did a lot of work on hacking. That's why I love the Shiny Trackers. You can go back and look at these reports chronologically, and they did a lot of work on hacking last year. And Nazareth did a really good job on a hacking segment that we did last year, talking about everything. But we haven't heard hide nor hair of it in a long time. Mm-hmm. And the only reference to it was and it wasn't a direct reference, but when the Legionnaire was pulled from the progress tracker, and it said in the roadmap roundup, the reason it was pulled is due to a Squadron 42 dependency. Well, Squadron 40, the hacking is part of Squadron 42. It's been mentioned in the monthly reports, and it's on the progress tracker as the little Squadron 42 emblem. Well, hacking is getting more UI work now from one of these Squadron 42 UI teams, after getting a whole bunch of work over the last, since the release of the progress tracker in January 2021. And they have said that they have played it internally and they enjoy it, but it's obviously needs more work. And so I think that with the addition of another UI sprint after all the work that they had, and the fact that it was playable internally, I think that hacking a sort of tier 1 version of hacking, an early implementation could come in this year, just because they're getting it ready for Squadron 42, and they're going to want us to test the Squadron 42 iteration of hacking, just like with salvage. Salvage hole scraping is part of, it's in Squadron 42. That's part of the reason we got it. I think we're going to see the same thing for hacking, because the other thing that was on the progress tracker for last year was lockable containers. Mm-hmm. And they're working on the loot tables. They're working on, they've added lootable containers, and so they're going to need to add containers that, are locked, and you either have to cut or you have to find the code or hack the code. And so I think that will be the level of hacking that we're going to get that's equivalent to what Squadron 42 has. They need us to test. But I think that'll be a lot of fun, and I think that will lead to the same thing that Salvage did, where we're quickly going from hole scraping to they're already working on hole munching, and we're pulling out components. I think the same thing will happen to hacking, because they've been building the system, and they're building it in a way that it already ties into everything that's already in the game, whether it's doors, lockable containers, and eventually hacking your ships. So
nice.
I do just want to say I think data spike missiles are preposterous.
So I don't know what a data spike missile is. You're going to have to explain that.
You clearly did not watch my video on electronic warfare.
I didn't get through all of it. I apologize. No.
That's right, because it's an hour and 45 minutes. Too long.
Look, I will summarize it. I will summarize it very quickly for you.
Go ahead.
Which is, the concept is to launch a missile that will attach into the hull and then hack your system through the hull.
Because magically, this missile will somehow hit at exactly the right spot to be able to integrate with your data systems. And then it's preposterous.
Yeah.
Look, missiles don't hit
a very strong Wi-Fi
of the time anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I there are so many. CIG, go watch my video, 1,000 Better Ways to Do EW. It's great. Yeah. It's almost like we do it in real life, and it's prevalent all over the world. Go look at Ukraine. It's great. Yeah. Anyway, doing data spike is preposterous. I think hacking and the mechanic they want to do is fantastic for like the Legionnaire, where you're gonna dock, you're gonna hard dock in, you're gonna have to hack open the door, or you can blow the door. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Great. You're gonna have to hack data so that maybe you can then sell that data with like the any of the data ships. Great. Mm-hmm. Having to hit a ship moving 400 meters per second with a thing that's going to magically hit the spot it needs to do a hacking job, preposterous.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll see it. I think they'll rethink that, because there's plenty of ways they can do that as well.
You could hack in. Let's say you get your Sentinel with its bad ass freaking interior freaking EW suite, right? Because I love that thing. Mm-hmm. You should be able to do that. You can play
Star Citizen at 100 FPS inside the Sentinel.
But you should be able to a hack might be remote, right? Using I don't know, this thing we call signals, the EM spectrum, right? You don't have to hit it with a physical item to do that. And so I think that is a far more engaging piece of gameplay than having to use missiles to do it, right?
So anyway. Interesting tidbit about the Legionnaire and hacking. So when I think it was an SCL about hacking, and the teams working on it, it was only like 4 or 5 months. I don't want to say it was like December or January before the Legionnaire launched or released for Invictus launch week. Was it last year before? Anyway, so the gameplay people that are building hacking have different ideas about what hacking will be capable of from a ship-to-ship perspective than John Crew, the person who leads the ship team building the Legionnaire. So I put more stock into what the gameplay people are saying of what will be possible and what kind of gameplay they want with it, versus what John Crew is thinking that the Legionnaire will be capable of. Because John Crew is thinking you will only be able to hack the door and gain entry. Whereas the gameplay people are saying that, if you are good enough and you remain within range enough, that you will be able to get into the target ship's systems and disrupt their systems, during a fight to gain that advantage, which to me, I think is great gameplay. But it's one of those things where this hand not talking to this hand as much
Well, we also don't know if John
it-
is actually working on the ship. He's probably just looking over the specs and like
Oh yeah.
supervising the people who are actually making it. I don't know what he's doing specifically, but
Yeah, and the people building the ship aren't the people building the gameplay.
Yeah.
And so, but they're not sitting next to each other, or maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But
Yeah.
it's, it'll be interesting to see where that
John
ends
makes
up.
the terminal, but the
Yeah.
gameplay guys, they're what gives you what's on the terminal.
Yeah.
So he's going to provide a fantastic tool to access some gameplay.
Yeah.
But he doesn't necessarily determine what exactly that gameplay will be as far as the mini game that you're playing inside. So I agree with you, Trey. I put more stock in what the gameplay guys are saying because they're going to develop that mechanic that sits on that MFD.
Mhm.
So, and I would much
I don't
rather
think you
the
should
idea
have to be
Go ahead.
on board the ship to hack the ship systems.
No,
The-
I think
the only way
if
you can get an
stay in
advantage is
range,
if you
you're good.
EVA'd onto it. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be in range. You can get shot.
I think there's definitely like counters to that. Like where you I'm sure like most of the data running ships, the Herald and the
MSR.
MSR are
And
probably
the,
isolated from
Mhm.
the ship systems, so it's much more difficult to get access to them because they're kind of like protected away from any of those hacking attempts. So you may have with those ships, you may actually have to physically board and yank them out of their protections and then take them where they need to go. That's more of a like a,
Components that do the counter hacking for you. The Norton 1080.
Oh,
for 2952.
This video is sponsored by.
I wish.
No, but they did talk about how you will the ship itself should have a system as part of it but you could upgrade. Look at that's an upgrade.
It absolutely is. It's a
just
blade.
an example. It's just an
Yeah.
example because I'm speaking to everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Um,
in a world where you have new components for EW components, radar components, computer components, you have blades that sit in there that can do a variety of things. Some of those blades may improve computing power for exploration. Some of those blades for combat ships might triple encrypt your systems
Yeah.
so that you can't hack in and open all the doors and flood the atmosphere and kill everyone, right? It just depends on what you plan on doing with your ship and what you're prepared to defend against. And that's
players can counter hack, but
Yeah.
that's my long answer is the hacking equivalent of hole scraping,
Okay.
especially with the loot. I'm looking forward to being able to hack open containers to get the good loot.
The Star Citizen equivalent of lock picking, hacking
guaranteed
lock
sub
picking.
flare in every locked box.
Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna answer a joke answer, which will be pizza. That's the technology we're going to get. We're going to finally get the cheese technology, so we can actually have pizza in game. We can.
All right, I'm ordering pizza right now.
That's the essential technology that they'll slip in. The next question comes from Neutron Boy, who asks, do you think Star Citizen should try to achieve minimum viable product sooner rather than later? The jokes about Star Citizen's bugginess are going to get old. Yes, but I think there's nobody who wants CIG to make Star Citizen reach minimum viable product than CIG does.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You say the jokes about bugs are going to get old eventually. I mean, the jokes about bugs were old 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I think the bugs ceased to be funny in 3.0, which was a rough launch.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not joking about bugs. I think we've been around long enough to just kind of take it in stride and say, well, that's just the way it is. Minimum viable product. I mean, I would love for them to maintain a minimum viable product every launch. Is that possible? I don't know. I feel like the answer is no. I feel like the answer I want it to be is yes.
Yeah. Well, and the problem
Minimum
is
viable.
That
Go ahead.
does go back to the tier 0 idea, right? So like the tier 0 of refueling is not docking with a Starfarer, right? It's getting close to a Starfarer and being able to refuel like a station.
Yeah.
Right? That's tier 0 is I can take my ship that I paid for and it's really confusing on the inside and I can refuel you, right?
Mhm.
Because you're close to me. Tier 1 is I dock with you because now we've introduced docking technology and I can do that, right? But they didn't give us that because they weren't thinking that way. So, I mean, minimum viable is tier 0 across the board, all professions, reasonably stable, and we can make money off those. But is that where Star Citizen wants to be? I don't think so. That's why they don't do it that way. I don't agree with that, but that's where they kind of are.
Something creepy just happened to me. Paul, you said pizza, and we joked about pizza, and then somebody shoved this under my hotel room door.
For pizza.
Ooh.
It says it's a House of Pizza menu thing.
Cue the X-Files music.
You said
Yeah,
you said the right
I
words.
looked over and I see this go underneath the door. I'm like,
don't you know?
"What
Don't
is
you know
that?"
San Antonio has the pizza bots that every time you mention pizza, a thing materializes underneath your door. That's why we don't go to San Antonio anymore.
Yeah. So the minimum viable. So Paul and I were at CitizenCon 2948. We met at CitizenCon 2948. And one thing that occurred at CitizenCon 2948 and then it was updated was the Road to Release presentation. And if you go back, you can still watch that. If you go on YouTube and type CitizenCon 2948 Road to Release, you'll see what is in there. And as far as I'm aware, those goals for what release is haven't changed. What they call it when they get to that point may change. I don't know. I don't care. But to me, what CR was describing in those presentations was the minimum viable product. But that someone, if I scrolled up, would say, if you ask 50 Star Citizens what minimum MVP is, you get 30 different answers. Well, to me, the answer is the Road to Release presentation from CR, the horse's mouth. Yeah. But that means that minimum viable product is, multiple star systems and all the base gameplay loops and server meshing, full dynamic server meshing, full persistence, and the org tools, among other things. Mm-hmm. So we've got a ways to go, and there's no hurrying it up. The IG will get there when they get there. Because there's nothing that they can do to speed up the development of server meshing, and the stability of it. But the fact that we have PES, it's in game now, it works fairly well, and it's only going to get better, over this next year. We're Jared has said it multiple times, but we're far closer to the end than we are to the beginning, and I think we're not far off from minimum viable product in terms of Star Citizen time. But the experience between now and then is going to continue to get better. Everybody here, is going to agree that the experience in Star Citizen now is better than it was 2 years ago. And it's far better than it was 4 or 5 years ago. And it's only going to continue to get better because we're just going to get more and more of the PS will get more stable. Server meshing will get introduced, and then it will get more stable, and they're going to add more to salvage, more to repair, all these things. And so, it's the bugs, not even a thing compared to what it was 4 or 5 years ago. And that's the perspective you have to keep.
3.0 guys, you
my gosh,
you can't imagine.
2.0 we had crash timers. 3.0 wasn't nearly as crashy, but man, did it chug. You got two frames per 2 seconds per frame. Kind of situation, and it was just every bug in the imaginable. You couldn't play the game,
Yeah, and it's we're gonna have bugs for a while until they get the back end systems all settled down and working together. And guess what? It's not with PES and server meshing. That's just part of the puzzle because you still have all the quantum integration.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother thing. But they're working on it.
Oh gosh, I can't wait for that to release.
That
but
was.
it's
I say
It's going to be interesting.
That's a fun one though, because the bugs for that will be like suddenly this one place wants 700 cats. Why does this one place want 700 cats? What is Quantum doing? Is it becoming self-aware?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, it'll be very interesting.
Is it Fist or is it Jawa? Who's the cat guy?
It's Jawa Sparky.
Jawa. Yeah, it's Jawa Sparky put in a contract on via Quantum to have all the cats delivered to his space station.
His space station.
We can't speed up minimum viable product because it's back end tech that is research and development. It's not the game mechanics itself.
Yeah. Minimum viable project, which is one of the things that people need to kind of like. Yeah, we need to kind of define it. But I think that the definition of minimum viable product is almost always what the game will have, all feature complete. Once the game is feature complete, then you can do the rest of it. But all right, I'm going to skip some of these other questions because we're already kind of running a little late.
A little.
Yeah, we're on 2 hours plus. So, okay, this is a quick one.
It's going to be really bad for me.
This is a good question. Should the player have the option to choose their path to get from the hab to the spaceport with like ground vehicles, player taxis, etc.? Personally, I say no, because you don't. If CNG develops a tram system, which they have, just use tram system. Like, I don't think we should have a tram system and a roadway that goes from your hab to your to that
if
stuff.
the cost is 0,
yeah,
then I think at launch or a year after launch, sure, why not? Right? The idea of being able to go down to your apartment's parking garage, get into your car, and drive to the airport, although I will probably never do it, certainly would present some very interesting, beautiful, in the chasm of Hurston buildings type of scenery and enjoyment, right, for people who dig that. But I would not do it now under any circumstance. And I would not do it if it cost the game anything on its what they called it, budget, right? The game's ability to run, right? So
yeah.
I don't see.
The only thing I would like is for there to be a couple pads on top of the the main apartment building, so somebody can come and pick you up. That's it. Or for you to be able to call attack like a space taxi.
Well, or in theory, if you have a size like a Pisces, maybe you can draw a Pisces size craft or a snub size craft, and that's it.
The only thing is you need hangars for that, but I think that it should be very easy come Quantum and stuff for you to, instead of taking the tram, I'm just going to go up here. I'm going to pay extra for someone to pick me up in the Quantum generated space taxi to take me to the spaceport or to Port Tressler, or somewhere nearby. But make it just be like your extra small or whatever pads. So you can't call in.
Technically, it should always be there. You've walked outside of airports in like DC or New York, and there's just a line of cabs out there. So there's
even better.
A line of NPCs waiting to pick you up and take you where you want to go. And there could be 2 locations. It could be the orbiting station, or it could be any one of the major zones. The what do we call it? The commercial zone or the spaceport. And
the short the short distance hops. If you want to go farther, you have to go to the spaceport and then get another one.
But it's a money sink, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Money to save time.
All right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, will we be able to 3D print components or hole patches like how the ISS does with their tools? I think that's kind of what that's at least the hole patches are definitely.
Hole patches, yeah. Again?
will we be able to 3D print components or whole patches for like repairing your
Components, no.
ships? No.
I don't think components, no.
Maybe
but I think
subcomponents.
hull patches, yeah.
Yeah,
We might be able
I
to
could
do
see.
subcomponents. You know, like
Yeah,
like
I
fuses.
could see subcomponents. Maybe not. I wouldn't call it.
Well,
maybe.
I mean,
I guess it's
let's
3D
be real. The Vulture can effectively 3D print a salvaging tool and a salvaging insert.
Yeah,
but that's temporary.
that's temporary though. Yeah.
But the tech is there.
Yeah.
It may be temporary,
Yeah.
but they can do it, and there
Yeah.
has to be
Mhm.
material inside the refinement device for it to work. So in theory, it's possible. Will they do it? Probably not.
Yeah, no, I'm just going by they don't want you to be able to make a power plant that a company makes. They don't want
Yeah.
you to be able to infringe on the means of production.
Yes.
It
We're
also
getting into
shoots. It also shoots
economics
in the face
and
any type of logistical planning, right? If you don't
Yeah.
have to plan component inventory, subcomponent inventory, and weapons inventory, then because you can just 3D print everything on the spot, then
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
whole component of gameplay is shot. Whereas
can
if
see-
you have to plan, then it's meaningful.
I can see manufacturing consumables, but not complex items like weapons and components and that sort of thing. So your munitions. I print bullets in my garage, so it's I can totally see that for those sorts of non-complex items. I could see us. We can make our own fuel. You can probably. You'll probably be able to make simple medications or healing devices, those sorts of things. But I don't think we're
should be
going
a blueprint, license, and resources. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again,
something like
they could do it. You could pay for a license for a certain amount of time to manufacture a thing, but again, doesn't sound like they really want us to do that.
Yeah. There's going to be limits, and that's mostly gameplay reasons.
Apple is not going to let you buy the blueprint to an iPhone and make your own damn iPhone.
But you could
Just the
crack
way it
that
is.
open and you can try to make it better, which is effectively what some
Yeah.
stuff is going to be, right?
Yeah.
Just pushing that 1%.
What do they
Science.
call it? Overclocking. Yeah, the overclocking mechanics. So, all right. So we've got a couple of questions left. I've managed to trim some of them down. All right. So this is just a fun question, and I'll just quick answers from both of you. When considering planning and logistics, which ships do you think should be at the top of the list to get whiteboards and pointy sticks? I say Carrack. The Carrack definitely needs.
Without a doubt,
It needs a whiteboard. It needs a big whiteboard, and like plenty of backup markers,
Because those dry out so fast, and I mean, in space, they're going to dry out even more. Your air is going to be super dry.
You gotta keep your air with the right humidity levels. Right?
Yes.
Is it your turn to start or mine?
Cheers. You go ahead.
Go ahead, Drew.
So definitely Carrack, definitely the Odyssey, and I would say the Galaxy as well. To me, it more leans towards the ships that are very multifunction, longer distance. The ships that are meant to support a plan that would go up on said large whiteboard.
Just for fun, for like clarification, that's what the hollow globes are for, by the way, y'all. Like those of you who are watching, that's what the hollow globes are for. That's why the Carrack has that giant hollow globe, and some of the other ships do. That's what they're designed for.
But you said specific to logistics, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So any large ship that's going to have a large logistical footprint probably needs a whiteboard and some markers, right? But when you get into like planning larger operations, Carrack is probably one of the smaller ships that needs it, but anything above the size of a Carrack, including the Kraken, I saw someone say, probably needs something that you can graphically demonstrate the complexity of your plan. Because those ships are going to be challenging to run, and you're going to have to pay attention to your levels.
Mhm.
And especially if you're supporting other ships that are rapidly coming and going, yeah, that's going to be a challenge.
My LPD is going to have an empty room with construction paper on the walls, blank white construction paper, and a lockable 1 SCU container filled with crayons.
You got, oh gosh. See, and I was going to give you credit, but you wouldn't said that. So there's a guy.
Self-deprecation, man.
There's a guy in the building that I work in, and it's a Navy building. He painted his walls in his official government office with whiteboard paint.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't know that was a thing.
It is. And he's got
Wow.
he's got all kinds of crap processes, acquisition procedures, everything written on his wall so that he can keep track of it all. So
there's even paint you can now use that's chalkboard material.
Yeah, my daughter wants some of that. She wants chalkboard paint.
We're setting up the room for the future kids room because we figured like we're gonna plan ahead, you know. And as we were painting, my wife was like, she wanted to like turn an entire part of the wall with chalkboard stuff, so they can.
Oh, that's
draw
cool.
on this stuff.
But
so,
it's yeah.
My
daughter wants black. Oof. A black wall, chalkboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is her name Daria?
All right, I'll step out a few minutes, but I'll start with this one with you, Attira, because this was specifically asked towards you. Attirakell's excitement about salvaging weapons made me think: could component and weapon salvage in 319 lead to CIG decoupling components and weapons from insurance, i.e., reclaimed ships will be stock again? So we'll have to like start worrying about our stuff. I'll let you talk about that, Attira, and then pass it on to Tree.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's possible, certainly. However, from my perspective, I see this as a progressive scale. So if you have, let's say you start with a ship that has a grade C civilian component, whatever that component is, and it has a certain cost associated with it. You then upgrade that to a grade A civilian component. That's a more expensive component. What I would assume is that you would then there will be a money sink associated with that higher quality product. So, you know, I don't know that they will do that for the purposes of the alpha and the, you know, just giving us the ship that we purchased back. But I think eventually when you upgrade your ship with all the sweet components, you will have to pay a premium to get all of those components returned as is. And maybe, you know, it probably won't be a huge sum of money more, but it will be more. If you do not pay that, then I would assume it would go back to stock components, what you would consider the minimum viable product of your ship, whatever that is. So I assume there will be some type of premium, right? Because you insure your vehicle, your car for what it's worth. You insure your house for what it's worth. You insure items in your house for what they are worth. I figure eventually they will approximate something like that will be auto calculated based on the sum total of your components in your ship, and that will be what you pay. You know, and you may get the claim for free, and then, right, I claim my ship, click the button. Do you want to pay for premium whatever? And it's 500 extra creds for all the components, or 1,000 or whatever. Yes. Boom. Now your ship comes back to you. It's a money sink. It makes you spend your money, but instead you get all of those components back. That's what I think they'll eventually do.
Mm-hmm.
Tree.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, not with 319. You know, I don't think we're going to see changes to the insurance system in 319.
No.
You will see people, especially if they do any sort of balancing to the cost of weapons and such. I think you will see people holding onto their ships. You know, not a lot more, but a bit more, because, you know, oh, hey, I looted this, and, you know, that saved me a bunch of money, and I'm really enjoying using this, you know, these weapons that I looted. You know, just like in other games. Eventually that is intended for you to be able to buy additional insurance on top of the insurance that you have for for your components and stuff, so you don't have the stock loadout and such. But I don't know. Gosh, I can't. We have PES now, but I have no idea how the insurance system works on the back end. So who knows when that's coming.
Yeah, that'll be a whole retool. I hope they don't increase the time.
Yes.
Right, because that's not a respect of our time, right? I mean, you think about it. Some of these big ships. I mean, the Carrack right now, or at least last time I checked, I haven't flown it this patch. It's 45 minutes.
Yeah. Get it back.
Like, okay, let's say I retool it with super sexy components. Please don't make it more than 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a long dang on time, man. Like, that's a long time in real time.
Yeah.
So I don't mind paying a little bit more money. Not like millions of credits, CIG, like a couple thousand, right? For insurance on top to get my components back. But man, don't waste my time. I'd much rather spend credits in game than spend time.
Yeah.
So
all right, so we've got a couple more questions and 3 more questions. Next one is one of my favorite ones. Are you or what are you looking forward to with the new tractor beam tech coming in 319? Reloading a ballista, able to hot swap mining modules, taking better components from soft death ships, etc. So, what are you looking most forward to with 319's new tractor beam? Go ahead, Tira. Go ahead.
Too bright.
Everything.
Missiles. I want guns. Yeah, it's great. Now, okay, I have one concern with it, and that is this. Are they going to give us a way to transfer all of these cool things that we're going to loot into the station inventory so that we can then equip them via the Moby, right? So, because the way we do it now is the way it's going to continue, at least for a long time. So, at some point, I'm going to have to offload my ship so that ship can be used for other things. So, I would just hope that is something that they take into account, like transfer all items here's a list of things, put an X and say transfer these into my thing. So I can transfer all these freaking cool missiles into the inventory. As far as like what I'm most looking forward to, I'm super looking forward to being able to tractor an Aurora.
with your tiny thing, of course, that's totally going to work.
Hold on to it. I mean, no, I am super excited for just the idea of weapons and components. I think is just phenomenal. That excites me, right? Because I always told you could ask the ammo guys. Like I bought the Vulture because salvage excites me in that way. You can go, you find a ship, you strip it down, you strip the weapons down, you put that in your freaking hangar. And now you have all this slick kit that you can rotate through without spending a penny. And, I think that's really cool. Now, it's going to take time, obviously, and effort to build up a good store of equipment. But it's cool. It's something worthwhile. And so this is the first step on that. So that's what excites me. I think really being able to freaking rip weapons off hard points and stick them on my ship is freaking awesome. So
I'll do mine, which is very, very simple, which is I'm looking forward to having a ballista at Jumptown and having the logistics train to support a ballista. So you be able to have ballista missiles in the back of a freelancer off at a forward operating base somewhere far away from the action, and then when the action's cleared, you have them like scooting over, dropping over. Someone hops out with a thing, just reloads the missiles onto your ballista, then flies away. It's like cool. Now I've got.
You think that'll be available for 319 though?
Oh, easy. The question is,
how many ballistas are you gonna soft kill so that you can load that in the back of your cuddy?
Well, that's the question: is will we be able to purchase those missiles separately somehow?
Yeah.
And will they stack haphazardly in the back of your thing, or will they come in some type of rack that makes it usable?
Well, the thing is if the way that I can imagine it in my head is that right now you can put missiles in the ship's inventory that as kind of like its cargo base.
Yeah.
So if you can purchase it and you can put it into the cargo bay, into the cargo bay of a ship, then you should be able to pull it out of the cargo bay of the ship and then use it to load. So that's the question. So
I would hope so.
yes, that's
that's the mechanic I'm most worried about, because you're right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That will be a cool thing to see. But can you purchase those missiles and then put them in a cargo hold to sit there and reload?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tree, what do you think? What are you looking forward to with this?
Okay, so I'm first, number one, I'm a loot goblin. And you remember that, was it a Zero State video where he stumbled across somebody's wreck and was just thinking about, the story, when 318 was first in PTU or whatever. Those sorts of things, I have a pathological obsession with, okay, well, now I have to go inside there and pull all the things out and put it in my ship, and I have to take it back and sell it. It doesn't matter if it's worth, 10,000 UEC or 200. I can't help myself. I've been like that in every game. I always have to, I'll use a bazillion fast travel tokens just so I can loot everything and sell everything, even if it's just sticks. But that's gameplay to me that I enjoy, and that little stuff that makes me happy.
I wish I could see your Skyrim house.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad. For professionally loathing hoarders in video games, I am the object of my own enmity. But so. But and part of that is I like to use things. Oh, well, there's a chance that I'm going to use this. So it's part of my own planning for my own missions, and and I love the idea of being the guy in the Valkyrie with a load of missiles coming into from the forward operating base to resupply the Pauls, and that's the sort of realism gameplay that I'm looking forward to logistically. The absolute troll in me gameplay wants to know if I can use my tractor beam to take said missile and run up behind a Nova tonk that isn't paying attention and bonk on the top and
straight up orc it.
I want to do Jeep stuff with a missile, like fly along, be driving along in my Steve that has no weapons, have a missile attached to my tractor beam, doing 80 kilometers per hour and just drive right by.
Let it go. Oh man. Somebody said, can you take a missile off with your hands and not a tractor? I think the tractor has some type of effect where it lightens.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Things, which is why the hand tool works. So no, you could not take a missile
off with your hands. No.
Off with your hands.
Omega Rich, we have a saying in the Marine Corps that the STEAL is an acronym: skillfully take equipment to an alternate location. And Marines are murder hobos because we're the poorest branch by a long shot. So we acquire things from the other branches all the time to survive.
Yeah, in the Army, you never steal anything; you appropriate it.
Whether you have the paperwork or not, you've appropriated it.
I've appropriated this. I didn't steal this from Bravo Company. I appropriated it, and you don't know where it came from. So,
all right. So, last two questions. One's from Gin and Tonic, who asks, since we've got a new freelancer Max fans here, a few freelancer Max fans here, how do we get the CIG to redesign them as 2-person ships instead of 4-person ships?
Oh yes, thank you.
Well, here's the good news I can tell you, Jin. They're already working on it. As of last update, they are redoing the interior of the freelancer, mostly to support components. But I can't imagine that the team that's working on the interior of the freelancer is just going to sit there like, oh, we'll carve out some stuff for the components. They got to do something with the interior sooner than later.
It is it's a small long haul ship, but it needs more living quarters than what they've afforded it, and it is ridiculous to think that 4 people need to be on that ship.
No.
You need a pilot, you need a gunner.
Yeah. And that gunner can be a co-pilot, And
that gunner can be a co-pilot.
Yeah.
And also, please, for the love of God, remove that stupid airlock thing wherein you put 1 SU crates that cannot fit through the door.
Yeah.
Or give me a bigger door. I'd be happy with that too, right? But
yeah.
I love the colors you're going through right now, Tree.
I'm just trying to make my camera less bright. I don't have my lighting like I do back at home. And
Yeah.
That
hotel room
excites
lighting.
me, Paul. That makes me happy. I hope they go to a 2-man crew. They make that door wider so that we can move one SCU boxes in and out. I think it's going to be great. That's good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna move on because I think unless Tree, you have thoughts on the freelancer getting interior work, but
excited for it. About damn time.
Tree, I'll start with you with this one. Northern Trooper asks, this is the last question. What are your feelings and thoughts of development for the year so far?
Ooh. Okay, so are we? I'm assuming we're just talking about things that are, this is just 2023. We're not talking. Are we talking about development carrying into 2023 from 2022?
I think it's talking about 2023, just this year so far, development.
I'm gonna putting it simply. So last year, Montreal was enjoying their poutine and getting things done. Now Montreal has had a whole bunch of cocaine and meth brought to them from Florida, and they're gobbling that up along with the poutine. Montreal is that their whole job is to fill out the Star Citizen universe in preparation for server meshing, allowing them to fill out the Star Citizen universe with more locations. And the pace at which they are developing underground facilities and then getting to work on building interiors. And then after that, asteroid facilities, which are on the progress tracker. This year, we're going to see what we got for underground facilities last year, we're going to see for asteroid facilities this year. And with all of these things being built from the ground up to take into account mission givers and the resource network, resource management system, which ties into quantum, it's I don't want to say explosion of gameplay, but it's all being built to be systemic in a way that once they're in, it's going to be nuts. And I'm just extremely excited for the locations that they're building and the gameplay that are going to come through them. Because,
Attira, your thoughts on gameplay and development so far for this year?
So I'm not the freaking roadmap crazy that Tree is. So my thoughts are a little bit more simplified. I do think it's headed in the right direction. I am enjoying it. Look, they've given us a really big step here in late February, early March. They're getting the servers back online. We've got, phase 1, what is it, PES or whatever it is. We're doing good. I think the Antares was a waste of time. Sure, whatever, man. Carry on. Make your money, do what you got to do. But yeah, Montreal is probably doing some of the most exciting things. So more locations, more gameplay. I think that's where we're at. I think it's going to be a reasonable year. I'm not going to go out there and say it's going to be a great year on development, but they've put themselves in a position now where I think with persistence that I think we're going to see some really interesting stuff come out of this year. And if we can get a few more locations, if we can get some deep space locations, asteroid shenanigans and things like that, great. I think it's going to be good. If they could just, I'll tell you what though, if they spend the rest of the year just developing those locations and getting us there, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be good. Right? Just give us some additional content and locations in Stanton and we'll be good. And then of course next year we'll get Pyro because we're not getting that anytime soon.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. But I'll finish off by saying my thoughts for this year are it's just started. We're just starting. It's month 3 of 12 months. We've got plenty of time to go through. And based off of what I've seen in terms of development behind the scenes, or in terms of things like the monthly reports and the roadmaps. Something snapped last year. Something happened, and I think it's PES being actually implemented in like the dev tools. But suddenly, it's like all of the gameplay designers at CIG said, "Time to make a game," and just started going crazy, from engineering to missions to tons of new missions. Even the narrative team is just like, we're going to start making missions now. We can't write lore anymore. We actually got to put lore in the game, and all of these things being announced and developed, and with 319 having a lot of that as well is nuts. It's nuts. So while there have been some downsides, especially 318's really rough launch, I think overall, it's the while it sounds insane for a lot of people who are like, I can't even get into the game. It's like, yeah, but you will. It's not like this isn't going to be the same case for like ever. It's going to happen.
It gets a little better every day.
Yeah,
it does.
And when 318.1 comes, it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be better than it was when you first played it. You can guarantee that. And once you've actually experienced 318, if you haven't, you will know what I'm talking about when I say the game feels like it's getting better and that we're seeing more progress. So the goals seem to be achievable. CIG seems to be actually moving, at least for now. So I'm optimistic about it so far.
Yeah. And in the meantime, go play Diablo 4.
If you can. Yes.
Oh, wow.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. So this is the last question. Thank you to Attira and Tree for spending their 2 hours and almost 3 hours with us. It's turned it into an Armchair Generals and Admirals podcast ad hoc. Make sure you check out Attirakell on YouTube, youtube.com/Attirakell and youtube.com/Tree0311. Tree0311, not 0311. For that content, for the Soldier's Opinion, and of course the Armchair Generals and Admirals podcast, and the Pathfinders podcast. And if you are watching this and you haven't already done so, please hit that follow button. If you're watching this on Twitch, subscribe to us on YouTube, and you can come join us live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on Saturdays to ask your own questions and get in on the topics. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.